Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. Chapter 1. After looking at the evidence and listening to witness statements, the court finds that the management of Draper Holdings knew about previous complaints from employees about harassment. By ignoring these complaints, they created a work environment that was not safe, as stated in South Carolina labor laws. Therefore, the court rules in favor of the plaintiff and awards her 22 months of back pay and $3 million in additional damages. The case is now closed. Minerva Hart read the judge's decision while he spoke in court. With her experience in many courtrooms, she stayed calm and did not show her happiness about the ruling, which kept her winning record intact. When she heard her client next to her gasp, followed by tears of joy, Minerva gently patted the young woman's hand, encouraging her to stay composed while still in the courtroom. Sounds from the defense table caught Minerva's attention. She had expected this. "Your Honor," started Tom Payton, the attorney for Draper Holdings, "the defense asks for a pause on the court's ruling while we appeal." Minerva did not stand to respond. Judge Nathan looked tired as he answered Payton, "Request denied. Court is dismissed." Quickly, Minerva put the pages of the court ruling into her bag and stood up, taking her client's elbow to guide her out of the courtroom. "Let's get you out of here. Can you meet me in my office at 3 this afternoon?" The young woman checked her watch and replied, "I can make it as long as it doesn't take too long. I have plans later, and my friend is picking me up at 5, so I need time to get ready." As they walked into the hallway of the Oconee County Courthouse in Walhalla, South Carolina, Minerva thought about her client's schedule. The woman lived in Westminster and had been working at Draper Holdings' site outside of Seneca. Minerva's law office was in downtown Greenville. It was just before noon, and while the young woman could drive the 46 miles and reach the office by 3, getting back home in time for her plans would be difficult because of Friday traffic. Minerva was not very familiar with the court staff in Oconee County, so she hesitated to ask them to send some forms for her client to sign instead of handling it in her Greenville office. The forms were important for starting the process of collecting the judgment from the court. Minerva also needed these forms to ensure she received her share of the settlement, but it was okay. She did not need the money right away. Her small law practice was doing well, with more clients than she sometimes could handle. As they walked to the client's car, Minerva said, "I don't want you to be late. I'll have my assistant call you next week to find a better time for you to come in. Does that work for you?" "That sounds good. I work the early shift next week, so I'm free any day after one." Minerva noticed Tom Payton and his client leaving the courthouse, so she quickly said goodbye to her client and helped her into the car. As the client backed out of her parking spot, Payton called out, "I don't know how you can live with yourself, Minnie. Some girl gets her feelings hurt and you try to ruin a company and put many people out of work." Minnie. He called her by her nickname, acting like they were friends. Minerva thought her full name was as old as the Roman goddess it came from, but it was still her legal name. She wanted to set some boundaries with him. "Mr. Payton, if you have something to discuss, please address me properly." Payton's face turned red as he leaned closer to Minerva, trying to threaten her. "Fine, Miss Hart. You know that the court's decision won't hold up on appeal. We both know what the law says, and no reasonable person would see compliments about someone's looks as harassment." Minerva smiled slightly and replied, "What happened in court was not just co-workers casually commenting on my client's hairstyle or shoes. There were repeated remarks about her appearance from her co-workers, her supervisor, and the person right behind you." "But they were just having fun," the man from Draper Holdings said. "No one meant to make her uncomfortable. Teasing happens all the time. No one knew she would take it so hard." Minerva stared at him in disbelief. "You heard the witnesses, including your own assistant, say in court that my client told her manager, you, and the HR department about her concerns, but you all ignored them." She felt ashamed, anxious, and undervalued in her workplace, as shown in court. Minerva took a deep breath and continued, "I know that Draper Holdings started as a family business, and you value your local employees who have helped make it successful, but things that may have been fine in friendly settings among male co-workers are no longer okay in a professional workplace. Unless you create rules that encourage respectful behavior, Your legal troubles will continue. That's my best advice." Minerva didn't wait for any reply. She unlocked her 3-year-old SUV and got into the driver's seat. She watched the men walk away, Tom Payton still talking enthusiastically with his client. As she started the car, she pushed them and the court case from her mind, focusing instead on how to get back to Greenville. If she took US 123, it would be the quickest way, passing by several fast food spots for a quick lunch. The downside was driving by Clemson University and the apartment where Athena had lived while studying there. Minerva didn't want to deal with tears or guilt today, so she decided to take Highway 11 south through Seneca, then join Interstate 85 heading north into Greenville. This choice would add at least 30 minutes to her trip, but it would keep her feeling calm. As she drove on Walhalla's narrow streets, Minerva thought about whether she should go back to her office that day. Her client for this case wouldn't meet with her until next week, so were there any urgent matters she needed to handle? She pressed the speed dial for her office and hoped her assistant, TJ, had not left for lunch yet. When he answered the phone, his deep voice reminded Minerva of the singer Barry White. "Good morning, Miss Hart's office," TJ said cheerfully. TJ Washington was a big presence, which matched his voice. He stood almost 7 feet tall and was very strong. People often thought he was a former athlete, even though he wasn't interested in team sports. His real passion was Tai Chi, which he taught to the young people in Greenville. If anyone fit the term gentle giant, it was TJ. That said, he could use his size to protect those he cared for, and no one mattered more to him than Minerva, except perhaps her nephew, Alexander. Minerva felt a mix of excitement and sadness about the day next month when TJ would find out how he did on his bar exam. She was eager to make him a full partner in her law firm, but worried about finding a new assistant after that. "Hi, TJ. Have you eaten lunch yet?" Minerva asked. She heard his warm laugh before he replied, "I was waiting to hear how the case went." Minerva chuckled and told him about the court decision, asking him to set up a meeting with the client for next week. He promised to take care of it as soon as he got back from lunch. "Why don't you forward the phone to your cell and work from home this afternoon?" Minerva suggested. "If we aren't expecting any clients, we might as well close for the day." "I can do that," TJ replied. "Lana wants you to call her when you have a moment. It's about your plans for Myrtle Beach next week." Minerva flinched. She had forgotten that next week was her time at the Myrtle Beach office. The paralegal there, Lana Street, usually did not need Minerva to be present unless it was for court occasions, none of which were on the calendar that week. She decided to reach out to Lana and see if her visit could be delayed. "I'll call Lana in a bit," Minerva told TJ. "You should go get some lunch and head home. I'm going to pick up Alex and make it an early day for myself, too." "He won't be out of school for another 3 hours," TJ reminded her. "I know, but by the time I get back to Greenville, it will be nearly 2. If I stop at the grocery store on my way to his school, I shouldn't arrive too early." TJ said, "I'm sure he will be happy to see you waiting for him. He says study hall is very boring on days without practice." "Believe me, I understand," Minerva assured him. "We worry about Alex being involved in too many sports and activities, but he loves participating, and it seems to help him with his schoolwork." "Come on," TJ teased. "We all know where he gets his competitive nature from." Minerva recognized TJ's light-hearted jab. She thought about how her competitive side had developed. She hadn't been quite like that while growing up with Athena. Even with their 2-year age difference, the sisters had always supported one another, never trying to outshine the other. They inspired each other to do their best, just as their parents had taught them. But it was never about winning at any cost, which now defined Minerva's mindset in many areas of her life. Minerva remembered the exact moment when her perspective had changed. She had been standing next to Athena's hospital bed as her sister whispered her final words. "It's too late for me. Get justice from Coastline. Get justice for Alexander." Chapter 2. Hayden tried to avoid work emails when he was outside the office, and the one on his laptop screen was a good reason why. He didn't mind spending a bit of time on a Saturday morning communicating with a client or vendor, but issues like the one he was reading seemed to drain any good feelings he had left about the weekend. The only reason he opened the email from Emily Willis was that it had been in his inbox for 3 days, and he needed to reply to the head of his human resources department, even if she likely wouldn't see it until she came back on Monday. Ashanti Cox had filed another employee complaint. Reading Emily's message, Hayden saw that Ashanti was upset because her request for a day off on the Friday before Memorial Day had been denied by her manager. The manager had clearly explained why Ashanti's request for time off had been turned down. However, Ashanti often said she faced unfair treatment whenever her requests were not accepted. In this case, she claimed that 2 white male workers were allowed to take the day off while her request was denied. At Coastline Multimedia, employees got 6 official holidays every year when most operations were closed, including New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day. They also received 3 additional holidays that needed manager approval. Some departments worked around the clock, while others needed to keep a certain number of staff available for customer service. This meant department managers had to consider the staffing needs when deciding on time-off requests. Though Hayden trusted the manager's explanation, he decided to check the corporate scheduling system for more details about Ashanti Cox. He saw that she had requested and received floating vacation days for Friday, January 13th, and Monday, January 16th, which gave her a long weekend for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. She had also been approved for Friday, June 16th, and Monday, June 19th, for another long weekend to celebrate Juneteenth. A closer look at Ashanti's past requests showed that she frequently asked for every Friday before a Monday holiday off. Last year, she had been granted time off on 5 of those Fridays, often causing another employee in her department to be turned down. Hayden noticed, which he believed the manager would also have seen, that she had taken sick days on the following Tuesday after those long weekends. Hayden quickly wrote a reply to Emily Willis and included Ashanti's manager in the message. He agreed with the manager's decision and reminded Emily to tell Ashanti that employees who called in sick needed to provide a note from their doctor when returning to work. He understood that most managers only enforced this rule selectively, especially if they thought it was being misused. Hayden planned to ask a senior manager to talk with the production print department manager about Ashanti. Once he finished the email to Emily, Hayden looked through his inbox. There were 300 unread emails that had come in on Friday. Most were communications between directors, managers, and employees at Coastline Multimedia that he was copied on to stay informed. Seeing nothing else to do before Monday, he closed his laptop and went to his bedroom. Sitting on the edge of his big bed, Hayden brushed a strand of red hair away from the peaceful face of the woman sleeping there. "Wake up, sleepyhead. If you want to see the sunrise on the beach, you have about 20 minutes to get out there." A sleepy voice replied, "You live at the beach. I just need to step outside. Let me rest a little longer." Stacy tried to cover her head with a pillow, but Hayden gently took it from her. "I'll let you sleep, but I have a breakfast meeting. If you missed the sunrise because you fell back asleep, don't blame me." Reluctantly, Stacy turned onto her back. Opening one eye to see the light in the room, she asked, "What time is it?" "It's 6:45 on a beautiful Saturday morning," Hayden said. Finally opening both eyes and looking at Hayden, she smiled and asked, "What's the point of having a friend if he doesn't help me enjoy the perks?" Laughing, Hayden gently teased her, "You need to remember that I work hard. Maybe if you didn't stay out so late, you could enjoy those perks." "I had to stay until the pub closed," Stacy complained. "And stop with the hard-working talk. You own so much, and what you don't own, you control." Hayden stood up and said, "You know you're exaggerating." Stacy got out of bed and stretched, playfully trying to get Hayden's attention. "Fine, I'm the boss, so they can wait for me." As Hayden put on his shirt, Stacy helped him with his pants. "Let's keep this quick," Hayden suggested, knowing how much she enjoyed their moments together. Stacy got ready on the bed, settled into what had become a familiar routine. With a playful attitude, she prepared for their time together, and Hayden joined her, finding comfort in their shared rhythm. Hayden liked the simple nature of their relationship. Even though it was mostly physical, they enjoyed their uncomplicated moments. As they engaged, Stacy encouraged a faster pace, and Hayden adjusted to keep up. Afterward, Hayden stepped into the bathroom, then returned to find Stacy looking at the sunrise over the ocean. "I should be back by 10 if you want to hang out," he said. "It might be a good idea for you if you do. I open the pub today at 11, but if you want to come by later, I'll buy you a drink and we can talk about me coming back here when I finish tonight at 8. If you're certain you'll be done at 8, I'll wait to eat. We can make something on the grill while we watch the sunset." Stacy playfully wrapped her arms around his waist before he could get away. "Sunrise and sunset from your place on the same day. You better be careful or I might start thinking about our future." He smiled. "Now that would spoil a good friendship. Save me a seat at the bar and I'll see you sometime between 4 and 5. I need to go now, and you should head to the beach to enjoy the sunrise." As he left the bedroom, he noticed Stacy grabbing the top sheet from the bed to wrap around herself. He laughed, knowing it was big enough to keep her from tripping as she made her way to the beach. Driving along Ocean Boulevard, Hayden found it funny to see all the pancake houses he passed. These busy spots filled with tourists were a common sight, so he planned to hold his monthly meeting with the project team at Denny's instead. It was one of the few places in town that served breakfast and had a private room away from the usual crowd. Like most locals, Hayden usually avoided driving on Ocean Boulevard, but it was early enough that he didn't have to worry about getting stuck behind a golf cart. There were still few people crossing the street to slow him down. He was able to keep the 25 miles per hour speed limit from his house to 8th Avenue North, where he had to stop for one of the few traffic lights on the street. As he waited, he saw a Myrtle Beach police car turn onto the street a couple of blocks ahead. This area ended quickly but allowed access to the beach, with a few parked cars. What caught his eye was that the police car went around traffic cones to enter the street. That meant the road had been closed off for a reason, and Hayden guessed it might involve his company. Then he noticed the blue lights in his side mirror. He watched as another police car pulled up beside his stopped truck, checked for traffic, and then moved through the red light. By the time this car reached the street where the first one had turned, a third police car joined it from the south. With 4 main sections and over 500 employees, Hayden couldn't be part of every project at Coastline Multimedia, but some naturally stood out. Hayden was aware of a project happening on a street that morning. A big hotel chain had bought a seaside resort and had spent a year fixing it up to be part of their brand. Most of the inside work was finished, and his company was in charge of making and installing the new signs. They had to get these signs approved by the Myrtle Beach Community Appearance Board. This board looked at all requests for signs around the city and decided whether to approve them based on rules that were often unclear. When his project manager showed the design for the hotel sign to the board, the members questioned the style and color. They overlooked that these were the hotel's well-known brand colors. The project manager tried to explain that asking for changes was like telling McDonald's to change their famous golden arches to green in Myrtle Beach. But the board did not listen, and they denied the design. The project manager took the board's decision to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but they also supported the board's ruling. Coastline's lawyers had to go to court to challenge the board's decision. This did not sit well with the board's supporters in the city, leading to delays in getting the permits needed for Coastline to install the sign. Eventually, they were only allowed to do the work on a weekend. As Hayden got closer to a police scene, he hoped it wasn't more trouble from the city because of the court case. When he reached the cross street where the police cars were, he parked his truck, turned on the hazard lights, and turned off the engine. He quickly got out and walked across Ocean Boulevard to find his crew working by their crane truck. He spotted a female officer nearby and approached her. "Good morning, Becky. What's happening?" he asked. Becky Zimmerman, the officer he recognized, turned and smiled when she saw him. "Hey, Hayden. I see your team is giving us a bit of a challenge this Saturday morning." Hayden appreciated knowing many of the police officers in the area. He always made sure to show his personal and company support for police officers. He gave awards, held special events for their families, and made donations to help buy equipment and supplies that the officers would not have been able to afford on their own. Most officers who knew him appreciated his efforts and called him by his nickname, Ho, which came from the initials of his first and middle names, Oliver. "What's the matter this morning?" he asked her. Becky chuckled and replied, "It's not your problem. Public Works blocked off the street last night because the city manager wanted to keep the area clear for your team today. A few people thought the barriers didn't apply to them and parked there to enjoy the beach at sunrise. When your crew got here and started working, they couldn't find the owners of that car over there, so they started their job. When those people returned, they found their car blocked by the crane truck, and now they want us to stop work to let them out. Hayden looked over and saw that two of his workers were high up in the crane, trying to position the sign frame for installation. He knew from experience that it often took several tries to place the crane truck in the right spot. He also realized that all the tools and parts needed for the job were already in the crane, meaning stopping work to move the truck would cause delays now that they had started. "So what are you going to do?" he asked. Becky laughed again and said, "We're going to protect your team. We told the women they were parked in a restricted area and would have to wait until the workers finished. They were not happy about it, claiming they needed to get to work. One even tried to get into the truck, saying she would move it herself. We'll stick around to keep things calm, but my team is very close to taking further steps with these ladies." Hayden tried not to laugh at Becky's words. The officers with the local police department had seen similar behavior before, especially from those who thought that paying for a vacation gave them the right to do as they pleased. While he respected their professionalism, he knew that no one wanted to challenge them in his hometown. He observed the two women speaking passionately with the officers, showing that the situation was tense. Hayden understood that this might not end well for them. "Can I talk to them?" Hayden asked Becky. Becky nodded and walked toward her team, who were still trying to calm things down. Hayden walked over, waving to the sign crew nearby. They were busy watching both their co-workers in the lift and the police officers talking to some women. When one officer spotted Becky approaching, he signaled for her to wait. He recognized Hayden and smiled. "Good morning," he said. The two women stood up straight and shouted, "Who are you calling rude?" Before the officer could explain himself, Hayden stepped in front of the women and said, "Good morning, ladies. My name is Hayden Oliver Justice, and I am the president of the company working here. My friends call me H.O., so the officer was talking to me, not you." The officers exchanged looks as they observed the women's surprised faces upon seeing Hayden. Despite their earlier anger, Hayden's confident approach changed the mood, and the tension seemed to lift. Hayden asked politely, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" The taller woman was about to ask for something, but paused. She instead said, "Can you help us get our car past that truck?" Hayden looked at the truck and the workers in the lift. "I'm afraid that once the truck is in place, it can't be moved until the work is done. Would it be okay to leave your car where it is until early this afternoon? They should finish shortly after lunch." The shorter woman chimed in, "Her boyfriend will be mad if his car gets towed." Looking at the nearby officer, Hayden asked, "Is that what will happen?" "Not if we can avoid it," Becky replied. "We can ticket the car for illegal parking or let them move it when the area is clear. If the people are helpful, it saves everyone a lot of trouble." The two women exchanged glances, and the taller one asked, "Can we get the car out by 1? I need to be at work by 2. "Give me a moment," Hayden replied before walking away to speak with his crew leader. "Joe," Hayden asked, "once they finish the installation, how hard would it be to move the lift so the ladies can get their car?" Joe smiled and answered, "The electrical work is the only thing left, and that is happening inside right now. We can move the truck and make everything easier." "How long will that take?" Joe checked on the team and replied, "Probably around 45 minutes, based on how things are going." Hayden shook Joe's hand and said, "Thank you. Get the women out as soon as you can." Hayden returned to the ladies and the police officers. He said, "I know it's not great for you, but if you can wait here for about 45 minutes, my team will be able to move the truck so you can get your car." Becky Zimmerman added, "If you ladies want to grab some coffee or breakfast, I can promise the police will keep an eye on your vehicle while you're away. Just remember to lock the doors before you leave." Wanting to walk back to his truck with Becky, Hayden quickly said to the two women, "I'm really sorry for the trouble. It was nice meeting you, and I hope you enjoy your day." Once they were out of earshot, Becky said, "I wish we could bottle that charm of yours. Let me ask you, Hayden, have you ever had a hard time winning someone over?" Hayden laughed. Many people would be surprised to learn that his life wasn't as exciting as it seemed. Besides Stacy Bloom and one other occasional friend, his love life was quiet. He decided to tease Becky. You're my only challenge, Officer Zimmerman, and I plan to change that one day. Becky felt a bit flustered, which annoyed her. Even though she and her wife, Jade, had talked about being open to including Hayden, she didn't want him to think she was attracted to him. At the same time, she didn't want to shut him out completely, knowing Jade would not be happy about that. "Keep dreaming," she replied, even though she knew she might not be able to stop thinking about it. Chapter 3. "But it's boring at Grandma and Grandpa's house," Alex complained. Minerva tousled his short blonde hair as she packed her rolling suitcase. "I know it is. That's why Grandma's coming here to stay with you instead of you going there. It's very nice of her to do that, so I expect you to be a good host for her. Can you do that?" The most challenging part of Minerva's job, with 2 separate law offices, was finding enough time for both. The Myrtle Beach office was still quite new, but the client list was growing every month, mostly because corporate clients hired her to handle legal issues involving their employees as they came up. Lana Street managed most of her tasks well without much supervision, but some parts of building and keeping a client list needed her boss's direct attention. One important event was a law seminar happening next week at Horry Georgetown Technical College. Minerva was invited to speak on a panel about workplace behavior. Lana wasn't sure if they would gain any new corporate clients from Minerva's appearance, but she believed it would help spread the word to employees who might be looking for a lawyer to help them with work issues. The seminar wouldn't start until Monday, and Minerva was scheduled to speak during the afternoon. She could have waited until Sunday to travel, but she wanted to spend some time with Lana discussing clients and ongoing cases, so she planned to drive to Myrtle Beach on Saturday. This way, she and Lana could have a few quiet hours together in the office on Sunday. Minerva's mom was happy to watch Alex at home and give her husband some quiet time for his woodworking. Alex was used to spending time with his grandparents. Even though his Aunt Minerva was his guardian, he had practically been raised by both her and his grandparents. Minerva was the one who set the rules, and his grandparents always supported her decisions regarding his upbringing. Alex felt lucky. Minerva was as much a mother to him as his own mom would have been if she were still around. "When will you be back?" Alex asked his aunt as she closed her suitcase. "Unless something surprising happens, I should be back by Thursday for our birthday dinner together. Think about where you want to go. We haven't had a nice dinner in weeks." As Alex thought about this, Minerva considered to herself, "I haven't had a nice outing since college." "How about Jack in the Box?" Alex joked. "Get in the car," Minerva laughed. "I can take you there for lunch before I leave for Myrtle Beach, but I get to choose where we go for dinner next Thursday." He didn't argue. He knew they would likely end up ordering pizza on Thursday night, and he was fine with that. His Aunt Minerva worked hard and often long hours, but always made time for him whenever he needed her or to watch him play sports. From a young age, Alex understood the sacrifices Minerva made to be both a mother and a father to him since he was born. He would always appreciate her love and dedication. He knew that his mother had passed away shortly after he was born. If it weren't for Minerva and his grandparents stepping in to help, he would have had to go to an orphanage and grow up without a family. Alexander was aware that people usually formed close relationships with someone of the opposite gender, just like his grandparents had, and he figured his mother must have too. His Aunt Minnie often said that he was all the company she needed, but Alex suspected she might secretly want a partner of her own. He had seen many people chatting with his aunt at parties and other gatherings for adults, and he knew she was quite attractive. Although Aunt Minnie enjoyed meeting new people during these events, he didn't think she had ever gone on a formal date. It had always been just the two of them. Alex promised to look out for his aunt, but also wanted her to have the chance to find companionship. "You must be the only guy in the world who can sit at the bar in an Irish pub drinking only pink lemonade." Hayden turned to see Jimmy, the pub's owner, smiling as he approached. They shook hands, and Hayden replied, "There might be just as much alcohol in my lemonade as there is in your watered-down drinks." Jimmy pretended to be hurt and said, "Oh, that's a tough blow. Criticizing my drinks is worse than criticizing my family." "All right, Jimmy," Hayden laughed. "From now on, I'll focus on your food. And your staff, too, they're always open to critique." Stacy, who had been pouring a Guinness, paused to toss a bar towel at Hayden's face. He ducked, and the wet towel ended up splashing on Jimmy's arm. Jimmy spun the towel while striding toward the back of the bar, clearly planning to playfully snap it at Stacy. But before he could reach her, another woman stopped him. Jimmy came to a halt and let the towel drop to his side. His wife, Teresa, held out her hand for the towel without saying a word. Jimmy handed it to her and then stepped back into the kitchen. Teresa walked over to Hayden, draped the towel around his neck, and playfully pulled him in for a friendly hug. "Quit causing trouble, Hayden," she joked, "or I might have to start charging you for those free drinks." Hayden raised his hands in surrender. "Hey, I was just sitting here when your husband came over to talk. Right, Stacy?" "I saw it all," Stacy agreed. "It was definitely Hayden's fault. He started it." "Stacy's had a few too many behind the bar again, Teresa," Hayden added. "Take a whiff of her breath, and you'll smell the unmistakable scent of whiskey." Teresa chuckled and said, "More like the aromas of Hayden's favorite. Are you planning to eat something or just enjoy the drinks I'm buying?" "That depends," Hayden replied. "Are you really going to keep your word and bring back Taco Tuesday?" "I promised we would return it after Cinco de Mayo," Teresa said playfully. "That's still a month away, so find something else to eat until then." "Not while Jimmy's in the kitchen," Hayden protested. "He probably won't be very friendly with my order. Then again, his touch may be what makes the food here special." Teresa laughed and said, "I wouldn't stress about him. Besides, Jimmy isn't like that." Raising her voice to be heard over the noise in the pub, she called out, "Order up, everyone! The next round is on Hayden." She then signaled to Stacy and asked, "Do you still have Hayden's credit card, or do I need to ask him for it?" Before Stacy could respond, a woman at the bar who had been hidden from Hayden's view by two large men leaned around and said to him, "Did I hear them call you Hayden? Is there more to your story?" Teresa quickly stepped back as she noticed Hayden's face lose color, his jaw tighten, and his body stiffen as he sized up the unfamiliar woman. He stood there for a few moments before placing a $20 bill on the bar. Walking around the men to stand directly in front of her, Hayden lowered his voice and said, "Since you seem to know a lot, what would you say?" Without waiting for her reply, Hayden quickly left the pub. The music kept playing, but all conversation stopped. Teresa, Stacy, and the other patrons stared at the woman with curious expressions. The woman next to her asked, "Do you know him?" Minerva Hart looked around at all the faces watching her before responding to Lana Street. "I've never seen him before. I'm sorry if I bothered him, but he looked like he was having fun with everyone else." Teresa heard Minerva's comment and said, "Hayden is one of the friendliest guys you'll meet. He gets teased about his name all the time, but I've never seen him react like that." "Who are you, by the way?" Lana answered for both of them. "Teresa Byrne. This is my boss, Minnie Hart. Minnie, this is one of the owners of the pub, Teresa Byrne." Teresa studied the woman before her, noticing her striking appearance, which made her even more curious about why Hayden had reacted so strongly. What was it about Minerva Hart that had caught his attention? "You're not from around here, are you, Miss Hart?" Teresa asked. "No, I live in Greenville. Lana manages my office in Myrtle Beach, so I only visit once a month, depending on court dates. Why do you want to know?" Teresa grinned. "Because you say you don't know H.O. A charming woman like you would have met him by now. Someone would have introduced you to." "I doubt it," Minerva said playfully. "I'm not looking for a relationship or dating right now, especially with someone who can't handle a little teasing." Stacy listened to their talk and felt relieved that the captivating woman who had caught H.O.'s attention wasn't interested in him. It wasn't that she wanted something more serious with H.O. than what they had, but he was her favorite friend, and she didn't want that to change. "I'm probably not as selective as you," Lana said with a laugh. "What do you mean by that?" Minerva asked, slightly annoyed. Lana, finishing her drink, called for a refill before replying, "It means I might not want a relationship right now either, but I wouldn't turn down a chance with that good-looking guy. You seemed interested enough to talk to him." Minerva waved her hand dismissively. "I was just enjoying the playful banter, that's all." As she said this, Minerva thought about their interaction and why she engaged. She noticed the two large men beside her were having fun, but seemed a bit hesitant, as if they were aware of the mood. Looking around the pub, she realized that their behavior wasn't just them. It had changed when the man left. In the short time since he had gone, the atmosphere shifted, voices grew louder, and the words used became more colorful. The respectful air he had brought faded, clear even in the bartender's change from careful to more relaxed. Even when speaking with him, Minerva didn't feel scared. Instead, she noticed that the others acted not out of fear, but out of respect for him. She wondered if this had affected her wish to engage with him. Did she want his acknowledgement, a chance to be noticed? It seemed he had seen her but chose to leave instead of staying. This thought hit Minerva as she began to realize how others in the pub might view her, as if she had changed the mood centered around their special one. Gently tapping Lana's arm for her attention, Minerva whispered, "Let's leave while we can." Chapter 4. "I'm sorry, Hayden, but someone wants to talk to you about something personal. She won't give her name and won't leave a number. Lissa has hung up on her twice, but she keeps calling back." Hayden looked up from his computer and noticed the worried expression on his assistant, Sierra Lawton. He recognized that her frustration came from having to interrupt him. "That's fine, Sierra. It's almost lunchtime anyway. Please let Lissa connect the call with the woman. I want to hear what this is about." "Are you sure?" Sierra asked, sounding unsure. Hayden had been a bit distracted lately, so it was unusual for him to prioritize a call from someone he didn't know. "I'm sure," Hayden replied. "While I talk with her, check with Emily to see if she's had lunch yet. If not, invite her to join me." Sierra paused for a moment before nodding and heading back to her desk. A moment later, Hayden picked up his ringing desk phone. "This is Hayden Justice." A strong, professional female voice responded, "Mr. Justice, this is. I apologize for interrupting you. I will explain everything if you can spare me 5 minutes of your time today." "What is this about?" Hayden asked, doing his best to sound interested as he leaned back in his chair. "It's about a young woman named Athena Hart. Do you know that name?" Hayden sat up straight. What is happening? He wondered. He had seen Athena at the Old Irish pub on Saturday for the first time in almost 11 years, and now this woman was calling him about her. He didn't want this added stress, but he was also curious about why she was suddenly back in his life after having made it clear before that she wanted distance. He decided to listen and said, "Go on." "So you do know her name? You are the Hayden Justice she knew in college?" Hayden sighed and said, "Yes, I knew Athena. What is all this about? I hadn't seen or talked to her for almost 11 years until last Saturday." He heard a gasp, followed by silence before the woman spoke again. "Mr. Justice, I don't know what kind of joke this is, but it isn't funny." "I really don't care how you feel about it," Hayden replied a bit abruptly. "Athena said she wanted nothing to do with me years ago. Why is she suddenly here in Myrtle Beach and having you call me?" Her tone softened as she replied, "Mr. Justice, I don't know whom you saw on Saturday, but unless you are seeing things, it was not Athena Hart." All Hayden could think to say was, "Seeing things?" "Yes, Mr. Justice. Athena Hart passed away almost 10 years ago. I can give you the information for her grave at Souls Harbor Memorial Park and Fountain Inn, as I visit it often." Hayden struggled to make sense of what the woman was saying compared to what he had seen on Saturday. Unless Athena Hart had a twin, she had definitely been sitting at the bar in the Old Irish pub last Saturday. He needed more information. "Okay, if I accept that Athena is gone, what does that have to do with me?" "I can assure you that I had nothing to do with her passing." "I'm afraid that's not entirely true, Mr. Justice. Your connection with Athena is why I have searched for you all these years since her passing." "Searching for me?" he asked. "You make it sound like I was hiding," the woman replied. "I didn't mean to suggest you were hiding or avoiding anyone. I've been trying to find you based on notes I took while treating Athena. It was only when I saw a news article about the upcoming Coastline Multimedia event at Darlington Speedway that I finally knew who I was looking for. The reason I need to keep my identity hidden is that what I need to tell you could be seen as a breach of trust with a client, in this case, Athena Hart." "Athena was your client?" Hayden asked. "What do you mean?" "I was her doctor," the woman said. "Her psychiatrist, to be exact. I treated Athena from when she was 7 years old." "A psychiatrist? I never knew that Athena was seeing one. Why was she meeting with you? Mr. Justice, please let me finish explaining why I'm calling." Sighing, Hayden replied, "Fine. the woman continued, undeterred by his tone. Now that I know who you are and where you are, I will send you my notes from the sessions Athena and I had in the months before her passing. Some parts will be blacked out due to confidentiality, but they won't change the important message I hope you can see in them. I could get in trouble for sharing these notes, but I truly believe Athena wanted you to know this information, and her untimely passing stopped her from sharing it herself. So what will these notes tell me? Hayden asked. Hopefully they'll show you what was really in Athena's heart, even if she didn't always express it clearly. I hope they bring you some comfort about what you both had. Hayden scoffed. I doubt that. The woman continued. You should receive the package with the notes at your office tomorrow. I will call you back on Friday afternoon to discuss their contents and answer any questions you might have. Wait, Hayden interrupted. Can you send the package to my house instead of the office? Also, let me give you my personal cell phone number. I will be working from home on Friday, so it would be easier to reach me then. The woman noted the information Hayden provided and repeated it back to ensure she had it right. We'll talk again on Friday. Before ending the call, Hayden asked, Wait, can you tell me what happened to Athena? He thought he heard a slight pause in her voice as she answered, She passed away during childbirth, Mr. Justice. After she hung up, Hayden sat silently with the phone against his ear for a few minutes. He had many questions he didn't want to face. He wanted to believe that Athena was alive, that she had been at the old Irish pub last Saturday, and that someone was misleading him for reasons he didn't understand. However, he wasn't the kind of person who easily brushed aside what the woman had said. He gently placed the receiver back on the desk and picked up his cell phone. He found the contact he wanted and dialed. The call was answered right away. What can I do for you, Hayden? Tasha, do you have something to write with? He asked. Of course. What do you need? Hayden glanced at the clock. A woman named Athena Hart. He spelled her last name. Look for any records of her death about 10 years ago. Start in Greenville County and work your way out. I want as many details as you can find by the end of the day. Also, if you find her death records, see if there's anything about her having a baby just before she died. Depending on what you find today, I might need a more detailed report on her later, but for now, I just need to know if she is alive or gone. Can you do that? The first part might be done already, Tasha replied. An obituary search for Greenville County shows that an Athena Eleanor Hart, age 21, passed away on April 14, 2014. Is that her? Does it say how she passed? No, but I can email you a link to read more. Do you think this is the same person? Hayden paused before he responded. Let's assume for now it is. How long would it take to gather a complete report on her? I want to know everything from her birth to her death. Tasha sighed and said, Let's take a step back. If all you want is basic information from online, that could take a day or two. But if you want a full report, that would need interviews with people who knew her family, friends, classmates, teachers, and so on. Our process is usually more detailed than a regular background check, and that could take weeks. Okay, Hayden agreed. You're right. Let's just stick with the online search for now. He didn't want his curiosity to get out of hand. It was tempting to have Tasha's skills uncover every detail about Athena Hart's life, revealing parts of her he had never known in the 3 years he believed they were in love. He couldn't ignore the chance that seeing her, or someone like her, on Saturday and the call he got today from the unknown woman were all connected in some way. The smart choice was to check some basic facts that would be hard for anyone to change. An online obituary alone wouldn't prove Athena was truly gone. Tasha could access official records, credit reports, and other sources to cross-check the information. For now, Hayden could accept that level of proof. Maybe it would help answer some questions he had been thinking about since Athena had shaken up their relationship. If not, he could always look into those questions later. Suddenly, he remembered the woman from the pub. How could two women in the world have such beauty that turned his life upside down each time he was near them? Their beauty seemed too remarkable for this world, shining from within and showing in their stunning looks tall, fit, and perfectly shaped, with symmetrical features and long auburn hair. Hayden felt uncertain about many things, and he wasn't really a patient person. The next few days would be tough for him. What can you tell me about Coastline Multimedia? Minerva asked. Lana Street took off her shoes, placed her glass of wine on the counter, and replied, "In what way? They're one of the biggest employers here for year-round jobs. Are you thinking of them as a potential client?" Minerva took a sip of her wine while looking out at the ocean through the sliding glass door. She liked staying in the oceanfront condo her parents had bought years ago for family trips to the beach. It was much nicer and more comfortable than staying in a hotel or renting a place. She figured that since the condo was paid off and she had taken over the monthly fees, she was as much an owner as her parents, even if her name wasn't on the deed yet. She turned back to Lana and said, "No, I met two young women after our session today, and both say they have complaints against the company. One is a former intern, and the other still works there." Minerva didn't mention that her interest in Coastline Multimedia was deeper than just the claims from the two women. Her sister had been an intern there for 3 summers during college. Minerva had always thought this could be the coastline mentioned in Athena's last words, but she never had solid proof. Maybe these women could help her find that proof. Lana lifted her wine glass again, looking thoughtful. She said, "I don't know much about Coastline. I know they are involved in many business areas here. You've probably seen their name on most of the billboards around. They handle marketing for many hotels and resorts along the Grand Strand and other businesses, too. They really dominate the commercial sign business and own the biggest television station here. What are these ladies saying?" Minerva did not realize Coastline Multimedia was as big as Lana described. Athena had studied marketing at Clemson, so it was assumed the company she interned for in the summer was part of that field, which seemed to be true for Coastline Multimedia. Minerva began to feel guilty about the distance that grew between her and her sister after Athena started college. Being 2 years younger, Minerva was a junior in high school when Athena moved into the dorms and later into her own apartment. Minerva was so focused on fitting in and social events during her high school years that she had little time or interest in anyone else's life. When Athena came home for holidays like Thanksgiving or Christmas, the two sisters barely talked. There was no bad blood between them. They were just two young women living separate lives and getting used to not sharing details with each other. The gap between them became even bigger when Minerva started college at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. It was never planned by either of them, and neither complained at the time. They felt they would have time to reconnect after college. Neither expected that time may not come, but only Minerva felt the weight of that realization. "The intern," Minerva said, "says she was treated poorly by the president of Coastline Multimedia. She claims there are witnesses, including another woman who also says she faced discrimination during her time there. She says the president also played a part in that discrimination." Lana nodded and asked, "Do you want me to check with the state employment office to see if other complaints have been made against the company?" "Yes, please try to do that tomorrow morning," Minerva replied. "If I leave first thing, I can reach the Greenville office before lunch. I've asked both women to keep tomorrow afternoon free so we can interview them and get their full statements. We can do that through a video call. I'll text you their contact details so you can set up the meetings. Make sure to leave at least 30 minutes between each meeting so they don't bump into each other." "Understood," Lana replied. "We want to prevent any claims that they work together on their statements." "Exactly. I will have TJ look into the structure at Coastline through their corporate records." I quickly checked their website and the recruitment material they have. They mention equal opportunity and standard anti-discrimination rules, but I couldn't find the actual policies posted. "That's pretty normal," Lana noted. "Those details are likely on their internal site and only available to employees." "That's what I thought. It shouldn't be hard to get copies if we need them after meeting with the women." Minerva snapped her fingers. "Also, connect with your local contacts to find out who manages Coastline's legal team. That will let us know if they would stick with them or switch to another firm that specializes in employment law." After finishing her drink, Lana suggested, "Do you want to get something to eat? You didn't get to try the shepherd's pie at the pub last time." "I would rather go anywhere else," Minerva groaned. "I still can't shake thoughts of that guy. The looks I got after he left are stuck in my mind. I don't want to go through that again if I can avoid it." Lana understood her boss's feelings. She had planned to go back to the pub to learn more about the man, but now that Minerva was in town for the symposium, she hadn't had the chance. Still, she couldn't shake her curiosity about the incident. "Don't you wonder at all why he acted the way he did?" she asked Minerva. Minerva hesitated, knowing that the man's reaction was one of many questions that had swirled in her mind since then. She kept thinking about why just seeing this stranger had caught her attention so much. She usually attracted strong personalities. Those who weren't put off by her demeanor often led less assertive groups. But the man in the pub had everyone vying for his attention, and she felt a pull toward him. Why? She knew he was appealing to look at, that much was clear, but many people could fit that description. Research showed that looks alone do not ensure someone can lead or influence others. While appearances might draw initial interest, it is a person's character and actions that ultimately earn them respect as a leader. Minerva felt somewhat at a loss. Other patrons likely knew the man, or at least had some idea of who he was. She didn't. So what was it that captivated her about him? She felt a strong curiosity about him. Crap, she thought to herself. She couldn't stop thinking about him, which made her wonder why he was still on her mind. Changing the topic, Minerva said, "If you promise to take any leftovers home, I'll treat you to a big Italian dinner at Maggie D's." Lana smiled and replied, "I'd love to, but you're driving back. If you freeze the leftovers here, they should be fine until you get to Greenville." Picking up her purse, Minerva said, "No way. As soon as the food starts to warm up, I'll smell it. I don't want to eat cold pasta while driving." "All right," Lana agreed, "but let's take separate cars. That way I can just head straight home." Chapter 5. The usual? Hayden settled onto his stool and smiled at the woman behind the bar. "Yes, for drinks. Give me a few minutes to decide on dinner." Candace smiled back as she prepared Hayden's regular drink. He might say he would try something different, but she was sure he would order the same thing he always did: spaghetti bolognese with a sliced sausage. She placed his drink in front of him and mentioned the special dishes of the day, knowing it was probably not what he wanted to hear. Hayden listened politely and said, "I'll decide while I enjoy some of your bread. Where's that other guy?" Candace called to another waitress. "Joy, can you bring out some hot bread for H.O. when you can?" She turned back to Hayden. "He's around here somewhere. Probably taking a nap in the office again." "I don't nap, and you know it," came John's grumpy voice. He was the owner of Maggie D's. "Is Candy taking good care of you, H.O.?" "Better than my own mom," Hayden joked. "It's pretty busy here for a Wednesday night, isn't it?" Upon arriving, Hayden noticed there was a waiting list for a table and only 3 free stools at the bar. He always sat at the bar when eating alone, so waiting was not a problem. The food and drinks were always good, no matter where he sat. "There's always a spot for you, my friend," John replied warmly before calling to a waitress to get her drink order from the bar. Even though Hayden could find food at home or walk to many nearby places, he preferred the familiar and friendly vibe of Maggie D's. They always treated him like family, without the playful teasing he faced at other places, like the old Irish pub. Here, he could enjoy a quiet and tasty meal without having to think of clever replies to silly jokes. The staff knew him well, but not many of the other regulars did. Maggie D's attracted a more refined crowd compared to places like the old Irish pub, but there were enough familiar faces that Hayden often received a warm greeting or a wave from nearby diners. John made sure to stand behind the bar, welcoming customers and keeping an eye on everything. This helped him keep a light conversation going with Hayden. During a quiet moment in their chat, Hayden's attention drifted to the mirror behind the bar. He could see people walking in and out, but he usually didn't pay much attention. However, his focus shifted when a woman entered. He watched as she spoke to the hostess and pointed to an empty stool at the bar. Hayden turned away from the mirror and concentrated on buttering a piece of warm bread in front of him. "Is this seat taken?" she asked. Hayden hoped she was speaking to Candace or John, but when neither replied, he shrugged. He could sense the woman sitting next to him and felt a wave of energy when their eyes briefly met in the mirror. "Oh no," she murmured softly, surprised. Minerva thought she would certainly recognize him, so how could she not notice him from behind as she made her way to the bar? Accepting the situation, she hung her purse on the hook under the bar and looked straight ahead, trying to ignore the closeness that felt so noticeable. "I think I owe you an apology," Hayden said gently. From what he learned from the woman in Tasha Gray's notes, Hayden was now sure that this woman beside him was not Athena Hart, the one he had seen earlier. Minerva held back a laugh, using her courtroom experience to keep her tone steady. A woman would be foolish not to doubt the sincerity of an apology a man believes he owes. After a brief pause, she added, "But really, I should apologize to you. I'm sorry if my comment the other day upset you. Even if it wasn't my intention, I take responsibility for how it made you feel." Hayden let out a small laugh. "I wish it was just your words. When I saw you at the pub, I was reminded of someone from my past and reacted based on that. I'm truly sorry." Minerva looked at him in the mirror, considering her next words. She recalled the deep sadness in his words from last Saturday. She was grateful she wasn't who this man thought she was. She already felt guilty about the distance between her and Athena. She didn't know how she would handle the guilt of hurting someone as deeply as this man had been hurt. Turning her stool to face him, Minerva reached out her hand and said, "Hi, I'm Minnie." Suddenly, memories began to fit together in Hayden's mind like pieces of a puzzle. He looked at her and asked, "Minnie? As in Minerva Hart?" Minerva was surprised, just as Candace came over to take her drink order. She quickly asked for a glass of Merlot. When Candace walked away, Minerva turned back to Hayden and asked, "Do I know you?" With a sad look, Hayden shook his head and said, "No, but I know about you. I used to know your sister." "You knew Athena? How? Did you go to Clemson with her?" Candace was busy with another order, so Hayden motioned to John for another drink. As he waited, he thought about what to tell Athena's sister. He finally said, "I work at Coastline Multimedia. Your sister interned there during the summer a few years back. She often spoke about mythology, including how her parents named her and you after the same goddess from Greek and Roman stories. You look a lot like Athena, so when you said your name was Minnie, I thought of Minerva." Minerva thought, if he felt sad on Saturday because I reminded him of someone, and now he says I look like Athena, does that mean she hurt him? But that can't be true. He mentioned the woman doing something wrong. Athena had said before Alexander was born that she had only been close to one man, the father of her child. She wanted to know more. "Athena loved the mythology our parents talked about. When was the last time you spoke with my sister?" Hayden froze at the thought of his last chat with Athena. She had told him she was expecting a child with another man and thought it was best if they never met again. He felt uneasy sharing that conversation with her sister, even though she was family. He nodded at John when he set the new drink in front of him and replied, "Oh, it was years ago. Athena was getting ready for her last year at Clemson, if I remember right." Hayden noticed Minerva's serious expression and said, "That must have been just before she passed away." "I didn't really know," Hayden replied softly. "I only found out about Athena's passing recently. I'm sorry for your loss. Athena was an amazing person, and I'm sure you, your family, and everyone who knew her miss her very much." "Yes, we do," Minerva said. Wanting to change the sad topic, she asked, "Can I ask you something?" "I guess." Minerva thought carefully about her question. "I don't want to offend you, but how did you get the nickname Ho?" Hayden laughed lightly. "I'm not offended. The nickname comes from an innocent story." "What's that?" she asked. Hayden explained, "When I joined the football team in high school as a freshman, there was already another player with the same last name. To avoid confusion, the team uses the first initial. In our case, both of our first names started with H, so the coach had to use our middle initials. Mine was O, and his was I." Minerva had sewn letters onto many of Alex's jerseys, so she understood what he meant. She laughed and said, "So you had a hi and a ho. I bet the cheerleaders found that amusing." "They sure did," Hayden said with a smile. "He was a running back, and I was the quarterback, so we were both in nearly every play. The HI-ho combo worked well. We helped our high school win the state championship for 4 years in a row. Then Henry went on to play for Army and sadly passed away 6 months after graduating." "I'm sorry to hear that," Minerva said. "What about you? Did you play in college?" "No, I chose to work during the summers at Coastline while I attended Coastal Carolina University. That kept me from being able to practice." How long have you worked at Coastline? Minerva asked, hoping to find useful information for her case. Hayden answered without hesitation. I started there as a laborer in high school. I've done nearly every job there is at Coastline. You must really enjoy your job, Minerva said. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else, Hayden replied. What kind of work do you do? Hearing her phone ring in her purse, Minerva quickly grabbed it. Seeing Lana's number, she held up a finger to Hayden before answering the call. The conversation ended quickly. Minerva explained as she put her phone back in her purse. My friend was supposed to join me for dinner, but her mother called. She can't make it, so is it okay if I sit and eat next to you? Hayden shrugged. I usually eat at the bar. He signaled for Candace, but John came over instead. Hey, why aren't you sharing your bread with the lovely lady? You were raised better than that. Turning to Minerva, Hayden said, There's John being tricky again. Instead of bringing you your own bread, which you should have, he's trying to make me share mine. Just wait. He'll probably serve us 1 glass of water with 2 straws. Listen, smart guy, John shot back. There's a reason I have my friend Corey on speed dial. Who's Corey? Minerva asked with a smile. Hayden playfully explained. She's my mother. John knows I can get her to do anything for me, but he likes to threaten to tell on me. Ha, John replied. Get her to do whatever you want? I've seen her put you in your place too many times to believe that. All right, Hayden said. Just let us order our meals and eat in peace for once. John turned to Minerva and asked, What would you like to eat? Minerva smiled widely and replied, Other than a mama's boy sitting next to me, you mean? Say the word and I'll get rid of him, John assured her. A nice lady like you could do much better than this guy. I'm already seeing a 1-star review in your future, Hayden joked. Great food, but questionable service. Still laughing, Minerva told John, I would like the eggplant rollatini appetizer, please. Good choice, John said. He then shot a look at Hayden and added, Just be quiet. You'll eat what I serve you or skip dinner tonight. Minerva didn't quite understand why John started laughing as he walked away, but she figured it was just friendly teasing, like she had seen at the old Irish pub. People might admire John, but also felt at ease making fun of him playfully. He might be the strong leader here, but his friends clearly cared for him. John's voice brought her back to the conversation. As I was saying before we were interrupted, what type of work do you do? Oh yes, I'm sorry, I'm an attorney. I have my own practice that focuses on employment law. My main office is in Greenville, but I have another office on Oleander Drive that my partner Lana runs. Ah, yes, Oleander Drive, Hayden said, known around here as Attorney Alley. Laughing, Minerva added, Yes, just like the helpless impalas on the African plains, we lawyers stick together for safety. Really? Hayden asked, pretending to be shocked. Are you really going to stick with that story? You must be a great talker in court. Minerva laughed so hard that tears came to her eyes. She used her napkin to wipe them away while trying to remember the last time she had such a good laugh or enjoyed someone's company this much. Hayden noticed that besides their similar looks, Athena and her sister were completely different. Athena had always been shy, preferring to be alone or with just a few close friends. During their time together, they rarely went anywhere with crowds, which was hard in a busy place like Myrtle Beach. Most of their days were spent at the beach or at his house, and even their beach outings were limited to early mornings and late evenings to stay away from other people. Her younger sister, whom Hayden had only heard Athena mention once or twice, seemed very at ease around others, whether alone or in groups. Minerva showed a confidence and energy that Athena had never had. Hayden had loved Athena fully and was ready to give his all to her right before she hurt him. He knew that being with Athena would always mean reassuring her about her beauty and worth. She was never going to be as independent and lively as Minerva appeared to be. Their conversation flowed smoothly as they waited for their meals. After Minerva stopped laughing at Hayden's lively reaction to getting his favorite dish, they felt more at ease with each other. Minerva boldly took a piece of bread that he had just buttered and shared it, using her fork to try some of Hayden's meal, laughing at his surprised but welcoming look. Hayden saw the playful spirit in Minerva that he had always wanted to share with Athena. With her, he noticed the kindness and beauty that reminded him of Athena, mixing with a joy for life that Athena lacked. He felt a twinge of guilt for comparing the two sisters, but it faded as he recalled the hurt Athena had caused him. He didn't want to see her sister the same way he saw Athena. Now that he could see Minerva for who she was, not just as someone similar to Athena, Hayden began to view her as different. But could he trust her? Chapter 6. I didn't mean to be rude or anything, but did you have a good time last night? Even though Minerva understood why Lana asked, she laughed anyway. That morning, Minerva noticed a difference in her voice. She figured her happy tone was clear on the phone. Can't a person be in a good mood without being suspected of having a secret? Minerva asked with a laugh. Lana laughed too and replied, It's 9 in the morning and you sound like a teenager who just found out her crush likes her too. Either you had an amazing evening or you're planning something nice for someone when you get back to Greenville. And since today is Alex's birthday, I'm guessing it's the first one. Minerva chuckled. Neither is true. But I did have a nice dinner with someone last night. Maybe those good feelings are coming through in my voice. Even though Minerva saw Lana as a friend, she wanted to keep things professional, especially since they were both working. She couldn't share all the thoughts and feelings that the presence of a new man had stirred in her. Even with her close friend Athena, she would have struggled to talk about the strong feelings she had felt the night before. How could she describe the way those feelings stayed with her, even hours later and far from where it all happened? So tell me about it, Lana encouraged. Minerva thought she could share bits of her night with Lana, who would likely enjoy the stories. You'll never guess who I ran into at Maggie D's last night. Maggie D's is a popular place in Myrtle Beach. You could have met anyone there. I won't even try to guess. Minerva couldn't hide her smile. Do the initials H-A and O help at all? No way, Lana exclaimed, clearly excited. Of all times for me to get sidetracked by my mom. What happened? Once she stopped giggling, Minerva replied, His name is Hayden Oliver. He got that nickname in high school because his initials were on the back of his football jersey. I remember hearing about that, Lana said. It was a few years before I started at Myrtle Beach High. Our football team was having a tough time while I was there, and students often said they wished we had the H-I-Ho team from a few years back. This Hayden guy must have been the H-O part. That's him, Minerva confirmed. Anyway, he works at Coastline Multimedia and knew my sister from when she interned there. He recognized her and asked if I was related. His reaction there didn't seem very positive, Lana noticed. What could your sister have done to him? I don't think he remembered Athena specifically, but she probably reminded him of someone else, Minerva explained. Still, I got the feeling he might have once liked my sister. Maybe it was because any feelings he had for Athena were likely not returned. Why do you think that? Lana asked. He was probably just as charming back then as he is now. Because Athena only had eyes for one guy her whole life, and he hurt her. She never told me who he was, but from what I've learned since her passing, it must have been someone important at Coastline Multimedia. Why do you think that? Minerva thought about her talks with her parents. She said, When my sister started as an intern that summer, she told my parents she didn't like it there because they put her in a department that wasn't related to her marketing career. But within a week, her attitude changed. She said she met someone who would help make her internship better and look out for her. After a moment to remember more, she continued, When my parents asked her about coming back to Coastline the next summers, Athena said she was sure she would always have a spot there, whether as an intern or a future employee. When they questioned her confidence, she hinted that her boyfriend had the connections to help her. Lana asked, But you don't know who the boyfriend was. How do you know it wasn't this guy? Because, Minerva explained, Hayden told me he started working there as a laborer in high school. Did he seem like the executive type when you saw him? You can't judge someone based on how they look in a pub, Lana replied. Oh, come on, Minerva said. You've seen how strong he is. He looks like someone who does physical work, not someone who sits at a desk. I didn't realize how tall he was until he walked me to my car last night. I'm 5'8", and he was at least 10 inches taller. And he drives an old pickup truck with the Coastline Multimedia logo on the sides. It's a truck that's been used a lot, not something an executive would usually drive. Lana thought about Minerva's points. While she wasn't fully convinced about what appearances could show, she trusted her judgment for now. So, If he's just a worker at the company, did you learn anything about the claims from the two female employees? Briefly, Minerva said. What do you mean? Lana asked. Just that our talks rarely went into areas where I could ask about the company's HR policies, Minerva explained. I did mention that my sister once said she felt less valued as a woman there, and he asked me what I thought about what Athena might have said. He told me that his mother worked there and that she would be upset if she ever heard of a complaint like that. But if it's his mother, Lana thought, she might be from a time when women's roles in jobs were different from today. What would her job likely be? A secretary, or maybe something with similar power? She probably has a different view on these things. Still, Minerva said, I don't see Hayden helping us with either case if we move forward. Have you found any other complaints about Coastline Multimedia? No, Lana replied. Not from the state agencies that handle employment issues. I'm checking the Horry County court records for any past legal cases that could be useful, but that will take some time. I hope to finish it before the first woman arrives to give her statement. When is that happening? Minerva asked. At 1:30, Lana said. That's for Carlotta Lima. I scheduled her first so we can have her statement before Ashanti Cox comes in at 3. I suggest we get Ashanti's statement about her discrimination claim first, then ask her about Carlotta's claim. Good idea, Minerva said. Send me the Zoom meeting details once you have them and I'll join. I might ask TJ to join us too, but I need to check with him to see what his schedule looks like this afternoon. Sounds good, Lana said. Say hi to TJ for me. I will. Talk to you at 1:30 unless you find something important about Coastline Multimedia before then. I'll keep you updated. Bye. Before Minerva could call her office, her phone rang. It was TJ. She answered, Good morning. I was just about to call you. Good morning, TJ replied. I thought you might be coming in, so I wanted to remind you that I won't be here when you arrive. I am going to the Judiciary Committee meeting this afternoon, so I'll be leaving for Columbia soon. That's right, Minerva said. Thanks for the reminder, and good luck. How are you feeling about it? I feel pretty good, TJ said. The information you gave me has helped my confidence, if not my knowledge. You'll do well, Minerva encouraged. Call me when you're done to tell me how it went. I know the committee won't decide right away, but I admire you for speaking to them today. TJ chuckled at Minerva's enthusiasm. He added, I got your message last night, and I've requested a report on Coastline Multimedia. I used your email for it, so watch for it to arrive early this afternoon. Is there anything else I can help you with before I go? Minerva paused for a moment and replied, No, just focus on talking to the committee. I'll review the D&B report after our clients share their statements, and I'll think about whether to get a LexisNexis report on anyone at Coastline. If I decide to, I'll leave you notes to sort it out tomorrow. Sounds good, said TJ. Also, the settlement papers for the Draper Holdings case were signed by the client yesterday morning, and I filed them with the court in the afternoon. There shouldn't be anything more for you to handle there for now. No, Lana has meetings with potential clients scheduled for this afternoon. She and I will take care of those, but I'll record the Zoom sessions for you to look at later. I'd like your thoughts on each case before we decide what to do. I'll get to them first thing in the morning, said TJ. Please wish Alex a happy birthday for me and wave as we pass each other on I-26. Minerva chuckled as she ended the call. Not long after, she noticed the sign for the rest area just before the Newberry exit and thought about whether to stop there or wait a few more miles for the rest area on I-385. Her need to take a break won, so she changed lanes to take the exit. Once back in her car, Minerva checked the time and decided to do something a bit unusual for her. She opened her phone contacts and found the most recent entry. There was no name, just the phone number she had been given. As she started to drive back to the freeway, she pressed the dial button. After 2 rings, a voice said, Good morning, counselor. What brings you to call me? Minerva couldn't help but smile as she replied, Are you always so formal when you answer the phone, or is this a special occasion? I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Well, law school is challenging, and finishing it along with passing the bar exam deserves some special treatment in my view. And no, you're not interrupting anything. I just wrapped up my morning workout. How can I assist you? I thought you would already be at work, Minerva noted. I was worried you might be busy and that I'd be bothering you. Not yet. I need to pick my mom up from the airport in about an hour, so it wasn't worth going to the office just to leave after a bit. They can manage without me for the morning. Besides, after the nice time we had at dinner last night, I can't think of anything you could call about that would be a bother. I hope I get the chance again soon. Minerva shook off her laughter and said, "The reason I am calling is to thank you for dinner last night and for being such a nice friend. I would love to have dinner with you again. I might be back in Myrtle Beach next week or the week after, depending on my meetings this afternoon. Can I text you my schedule? If you are free while I am there, I would be happy to treat you to dinner." "Yes and no," Hayden said. "You can send me your schedule, and I will do my best to find time for us to eat together. But no, you can't treat me. You are the guest, and I will host you. When I visit Greenville, we can switch roles." Minerva thought, how often does someone from Coastline Multimedia get a chance to visit Greenville? Plus, as a lawyer, she likely earned a lot more than Hayden. "How about this?" she offered. "Next time I'm there, I will invite you to my condo and cook you dinner. Do you like Mexican food?" "Sure," Hayden said. "I didn't know you had a condo here." "Actually, it belongs to my parents, but I pay the fees for it, so I stay there instead of a hotel. It has a lovely view of the ocean." "If it's on Ocean Boulevard, is it south of 31st Avenue or north of 52nd Avenue?" Hayden asked. Knowing that a local would know about the area, Minerva replied, "North of 52nd. It's much quieter there." Hayden had never been inside the condo where Athena had stayed during her internships, but he had picked her up and dropped her off many times. She had mentioned that it belonged to her parents and that they would not be happy if she brought someone there while staying alone. Athena explained that the security camera at the door would let her parents see if she tried to sneak someone in. Minerva's description made him think this was the same place. "I know," Hayden agreed. "There aren't as many tourists, but you have to wake up early in the summer to use the Cabana Fitness Trail. My nephew Alex wants to try everything on that trail, but most of the equipment is for kids 13 and older, so he hasn't used much of it." Hayden felt a growing annoyance at the mention of Minerva's nephew. Since she had only one sibling, this Alex could only be her sister Athena's son. He worked to keep his tone cheerful as he said, "Well, let's wait to see what's happening the next time you're in town. What do you think?" "That sounds good," Minerva replied. "I still have over an hour of driving before I get to Greenville. I know chatting with you would make the trip much nicer, but I should probably let you get on with your day." Hayden tried to sound genuine when he said, "I appreciate your call. Feel free to reach out any time." "Only if you promise to call me as well," Minerva replied. "Let's keep in touch." Chapter 7. Lana checked the camera feed to make sure both she and the client were visible on the Zoom video meeting. "Miss Hart, you're all set." "Thank you, Lana. Miss Lima, I'm sure Lana told you that this meeting will be recorded. Can you confirm that you understand and agree to this?" "Yes, I understand this meeting is being recorded," Carlotta responded. "Thank you," Minerva said. "Please state your full legal name for the record." "My name is Carlotta Garcia Lima." "Thank you. May I call you Carlotta?" "Of course." Minerva began, "Carlotta, you are here today to discuss an incident that happened while you were working as an intern at Coastline Multimedia. Please tell me about this incident in your own words." "Okay," Carlotta said. "I was studying graphic arts at HGTC." "That's Horry Georgetown Technical College," Minerva interjected. "Is that right?" "Yes, Horry Georgetown Technical College. I saw a notice about summer internships for students in my program at Coastline Multimedia, so I applied." "Do you recall when that was?" Minerva asked. Carlotta paused. "I think I saw the notice in April of last year. I remember the application deadline was May 15th, and I sent mine in at least a week before that." Minerva kept taking notes, even though she could refer back to the meeting recording. She asked, "Okay, you applied for the internship in May of last year. What happened next?" "I was contacted a week after the deadline and set up a meeting with someone from Coastline Multimedia's Human Resources. I met with a woman named Marie Conte on May 28th. At the end of our meeting, she offered me an internship in their production printing department." "Did you meet with anyone else from the company then?" "No, just the woman from HR," Carlotta said. "All right, please continue." On June 4th, I went to an orientation meeting with 3 other interns. We were each introduced to a mentor from our departments and given information on what we could and couldn't do in our roles. Other people from the company introduced themselves and welcomed us for the summer. This is when I first met Mr. Justice. Mr. Justice? Minerva asked, clearly curious about him. Yes, the president of Coastline Multimedia, Mr. Justice. He welcomed me to the company, I replied. Did he treat you differently than the other interns? Minerva asked. Not that I noticed, I said. The only difference was that I was the only female intern, but he greeted everyone in a similar way. Okay, please go on. Minerva kept listening to my story and asked questions to clarify my feelings or get more details. By the end of our time together, she had a good idea of the case against Coastline Multimedia and its president, but there were still many unanswered questions. What do you think? Lana asked when she came back from taking our client out of the office. End the Zoom meeting and call me, Minerva said. She wanted to keep their discussion off the recorded interview. Minerva put Lana's call on speaker and asked right away, What are your thoughts? You were in the room with her. What did you sense? Lana replied quickly. I think she is a young woman who doesn't fully understand the situation and is being guided by someone else. I agree with you about her lack of experience, Minerva said. Why do you think someone is influencing her? It's just my feeling, Lana explained. Some of the words she used to express her feelings make me think that someone has talked to her about what to say. Nothing this Mr. Justice said would be seen as wrong in public, yet Carlotta seemed upset by it. Do you doubt her account? Minerva asked, but before Lana could answer, she interrupted. Wait, hold on. Minerva had noticed an email that had come in during our talk. She opened the email quickly, and while the attachment was loading, she returned to Lana. I'm sorry, go on. To answer your question, no, I believe her account, Lana said. But I am not sure if her feelings are valid given the situation. We need more proof for her story. As she watched the attachment download, Minerva said, If it was just the comments this Mr. Justice made about her hair, I would walk away from this case right now. The situation where she says he came up to her in a way that made her uncomfortable makes me think. When she says he moved a strand of hair from her face? Lana asked. Yes, Minerva replied. If that really happened as she said, we might have a strong case for a disrespectful work environment. Do you really think you can prove that? Lana asked, sounding doubtful. Minerva answered without delay. It wouldn't matter if he was just trying to help. If what he did was unwanted and made her feel uneasy at all, then yes, I think I could take that to court. You know the rules. His intentions don't matter. What matters is how she felt. She says she felt uncomfortable, embarrassed, and self-conscious. Those feelings are definitely something I can work with in court. Lana asked, So what's our next move? Oh my gosh! What's wrong? Lana shouted at her boss's sudden outburst. Minerva Hart rarely used such strong language. Her voice shook as Minerva said, I have to leave right now. Text me when the next interview is ready and I'll join again on Zoom. Minerva, is everything okay? Lana asked, but it was too late. Minerva had already logged off. Staring at her computer screen, Minerva felt a mix of emotions she couldn't fully understand. Shock, anger, confusion, disappointment, and a hint of guilt swirled inside her as she looked at the company profile section of the report she received on Coastline Multimedia. Most of the details were not very important to her. She could ask TJ or Lana to look into the company's finances later, but one detail caught her eye after her talk with Carlotta Lima, the name of the named principal of the company. For Coastline Multimedia, this included 2 names, Corinne Justice, CEO, and Hayden Justice, President. With just 5 minutes until the next interview, Minerva took out a notepad and started writing down her questions. 1. Did the man she ate dinner with last night mention his last name? She couldn't recall him doing so, and she was sure she would have noted it when she saved his number. 2. Could there be 2 men named Hayden at Coastline Multimedia? The first name was pretty unique, so it seemed likely that there might be 2 people with that name at the same company. 3. If the Hayden she met was the president of Coastline Multimedia, did he know Athena? He had said he knew Athena, but not much more. Maybe she had confused her feelings about losing someone with actual guilt. 4. What did Athena's last words really mean? Minerva felt that Athena had been deeply hurt by the end of her relationship with the father of her child. They had never talked about it in detail, but Minerva always thought the most logical reason was that the man had stepped away when he learned about the pregnancy. Athena must have wished for her sister to find a way to resolve things with him for both herself and her son, who had been left behind just when they needed him most. It was almost ironic that the man's last name was Justice, as nothing else seemed to fit. Minerva skipped checking the new text notification and opened the Zoom meeting app, joining a session that Lana had already started. The woman next to Lana looked serious, and Minerva suspected her long hair was not entirely natural. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Cox," Minerva said. "Thank you for joining us today. Can I start by asking if you agree to this meeting being recorded?" "Of course," Ashanti replied, her voice a little cautious. "A recording makes it harder for anyone to misrepresent what I say." Minerva nodded and started asking questions that surprised Lana, as they were not what they had planned. "Mrs. Cox, how long have you been with Coastline Multimedia?" "I will have been here 4 years on October 1st, Ashanti answered. Minerva did the math and asked, "So about 3.5 years so far?" "Yes, about that." "In that time, how many times would you say you have spoken with the president of the company, Hayden Justice?" "You mean in person?" Ashanti said. "Exactly," Minerva said. "Excluding emails or messages, how many times have you met him one-on-one?" Ashanti thought for a moment and replied, "I'm not sure. Maybe 2 or 3 times at most. Why?" Ignoring the question, Minerva continued. "So, you feel sure you would recognize the president of Coastline Multimedia if you saw him? Can you describe him?" Looking slightly confused, Ashanti glanced at Lana before saying, "He's a tall man, probably close to 7 feet." "Please continue," Minerva encouraged. Ashanti shrugged and said, "He's fit and okay looking, I guess. He has short blonde hair, but I can't remember his eye color. I wouldn't get him mixed up with someone else if that's what these questions are about." Lana's eyes widened as she listened to Ashanti's description. She sensed that the interview was taking a crucial turn when Minerva asked her next question. "Mrs. Cox, could you please tell us the full name of the president of Coastline Multimedia?" "Sure. His first name is Hayden. I don't know his middle name, but it starts with the letter O because I've heard longtime workers call him by his initials, H and O. I won't share his nickname as I think it's not proper. His last name is Justice." Lana wanted to confirm with their client. "So you're saying that the name of the president of Coastline Multimedia is Hayden, with a middle initial O, and last name Justice. Is that correct?" "That's right." "And he is a tall man who looks athletic with blonde hair?" "Yes." "Thank you. Now, can you tell us about your experiences with Coastline as an employer?" Chapter 8. This package arrived for you while you were gone. Hayden saw a large FedEx box on the kitchen counter. "Thanks, Mom. I was expecting it." He handed his mother a pharmacy bag he had picked up for her and said, "I'm going to open the package in the study. Call me if you need anything." "Is this the package that woman said she would send you?" Corey Justice asked. Hayden had told his mother about Minerva Hart and the call from the woman who said she was Athena's doctor. His mother had cared for Athena and was almost as hurt by her betrayal of Hayden as he was. Her support had helped him through the difficult months after Athena left. Looking at the return label, Hayden saw that it was from a FedEx location in Greenville, South Carolina. "That's the only package I was expecting here," he told his mom. "Don't you think it might be hard to face what the papers could say? If Athena is really gone, as the woman told you, and her sister confirmed last night, what can the papers tell you that would change anything?" Holding the package under one arm, Hayden took a bottle of water from the fridge before answering his mom. "The woman suggested that I might find some closure by reading the papers. I'm not sure if that's possible, but maybe they will explain the why. Why did Athena act like she cared when she didn't? Why did she do something that hurt me so much? Why did she keep coming back every summer? That's what I want to know." His mother nodded, understanding as she watched him walk to the study. She braced herself for the chance of more heartache for her son. Sitting in the leather chair instead of at the desk, Hayden put the bottle of water on the table next to him. He found the tab to open the package and slowly pulled it across the seam. As the side of the box opened, he saw it was filled with loose letter-sized pages. He pulled them out all at once, searching for a note or any details from the mystery woman, but found nothing. Though the pages were unbound, Hayden guessed they were in some order, so he started with the first sheet. It was dated November 3rd, 2000, and contained information about a 7-year-old named Athena Eleanor Hart. It included her height, weight, her parents' names, the agency that referred her, and the name of her doctor, which was blacked out. Since the woman had mentioned treating Athena since she was 7, Hayden thought that the redacted name was the doctor's. There was a short summary explaining why Athena was referred, indicating that it was an evaluation of her behavioral challenges in school, which were thought to be caused by possible attention deficit disorder. The next pages described various tests and checkups Athena underwent for over 6 months. The results showed that she had near-genius intelligence, was in excellent health, had no allergies, and changes in her diet did not affect her condition. It took several months to complete a full chemical analysis of Athena's blood. This led the doctor to recommend a daily dose of methylphenidate. The following 50 pages included details about regular follow-up visits where Athena had complete physical exams, blood tests, extra cognitive evaluations, and reviews of reports from her teachers and parents. After going through some of these, Hayden noticed that the prescribed medication seemed to help, allowing Athena to have a normal childhood, teenage years, and adolescence. Notes started appearing around Athena's 17th birthday, raising concerns about her continued use of methylphenidate, as studies indicated that it was not very effective for adults. The unnamed doctor began to lower her dosage and monitored her physical and emotional health during the time from her 17th to 18th birthdays. Hayden realized that she likely stopped taking the medication just a few months before they met. There was a gap of more than 18 months between the recorded visits. This was explained in a summary that introduced Athena's return to the doctor, outlining the reasons for renewing their doctor-patient relationship. Hayden realized that the new sessions began in mid-September, right after Athena completed her first summer as an intern at Coastline Multimedia. That summer was when he first met her. As he read through the notes, a wave of memories came back to him. Athena? He marked his place in the stack of papers, grabbed his cell phone and a bottle of water, and stepped out through the French doors that led to the back patio of his home. He walked past the pool house and down the ramp to the sandy beach, taking a left to stroll along the shore while remembering the first summer he met Athena. That summer, she had been shy and reserved, choosing to stay close to him as her mentor and avoiding others. Hayden had also been an intern then, but his mentor was his father. This experience allowed him to learn more about how the organization worked and meet many employees. Although Athena didn't open up completely, she was willing to collaborate with him on a presentation for the marketing team. Spending long hours together led to shared lunches and a few dinners. By the end of that summer, Hayden noticed a change in her attitude toward him. She had become more confident, talkative, and seemed happier when they were together. But in the week before her return home, she grew a bit sad. During that time, she had started to seek more friendly gestures, such as light touches or hugs when they met or parted ways. Looking back, it seemed she wanted to build a connection beyond work, and he welcomed her warmth. For the last 10 years, Hayden had been reflecting on how much he trusted Athena Hart. This trust began that first summer when he considered her a friend and shared his life and dreams with her. He now realized that she hadn't opened up about herself nearly as much, though he hadn't thought much of it back then. That summer, she rarely talked about her family, only mentioning that she had 2 parents and a younger sister. While she shared her goals for school, she said little about her plans after college and kept quiet about her childhood experiences. By summer's end, he had revealed a lot about himself, while Athena had only given him a small glimpse into her life. He remembered a conversation he had last night about sisters and realized how much he had overlooked. Comparing the 2 months he had known Athena that first summer with the brief time he spent with Minerva, Hayden saw the differences more clearly. Athena might have faced emotional difficulties that made it hard for her to build and keep relationships. Wanting to check in again, Hayden pulled out his phone to find Minerva's number. He tapped the call button and waited, but saw a message saying that the person had blocked his number. "Hayden," Sierra said as she peeked into his office, "Emily needs you in the 4E conference room." Did she say what it's about? Hayden asked. No, but she said it was important. I think she is meeting someone from Butler. Hayden looked up from his computer. Butler and Associates. Sierra nodded as she watched Hayden stand and close his laptop. Your schedule is free for the next few hours. Let me know if I need to change anything for later. Okay, he replied as he walked past her in the door. Taking the stairs was quicker than waiting for the elevator and helped Hayden stretch after sitting for 3 hours. He entered the conference room without knocking and no one seemed surprised to see him. He sat next to Emily Willis, who was across from 2 unfamiliar men. Emily turned to him. Thanks for coming so fast. Let me introduce Aiden Chambers and Tate Hemingway from Butler and Associates. All 3 men stood and shook hands before sitting back down. Hayden waited for Emily to continue as she slid a stack of papers in front of him. I asked these gentlemen to meet us to talk about the filings delivered to Coastline this morning. We're being sued by 2 employees, 1 current and 1 former intern. Hayden looked down at the documents. Sued for what? Aiden Chambers answered, The first filing states that while working as an intern at Coastline Multimedia, Carlotta Lima faced repeated offensive comments that created a difficult work environment. Do we have any records of complaints from this Lima person? Hayden interrupted. Or any reports from other employees about similar issues? Emily shook her head. No to both. Hayden turned back to Chambers. Sorry, please go on. Chambers explained, The absence of complaints or reports doesn't change the possible truth of the woman's claims. The filing says that some incidents were seen by other employees who can support the allegations. We need to get ready to defend ourselves, assuming these claims could be real. Hayden interrupted again. I see. Even if we are defending against claims that may not be true, I dislike that someone's emotional challenges can create misunderstandings and affect others. Hemingway replied, Sadly, that is the situation we face today, but that's only part of the legal concerns. The woman is suing Coastline Multimedia for not following your written policy on harassment. She is also taking legal action against the person she says created a negative work environment. Hayden turned to Emily and asked, Who is she suing? Is it someone who still works there? You are named in the lawsuit, Hemingway said. The woman is asking for $5 million from you for emotional distress caused by comments she claims were aimed at her. Chambers added, On a more positive note, she is only asking for $500,000 from the company. We believe this is just an attempt to reach a settlement. Hayden picked up the papers and looked through them carefully. It was on the 3rd page of the first document, the one against Coastline, that something caught his attention. The Hart Law Firm? He asked, not really directing the question at anyone. Are they the ones representing her? That's right, Hemingway confirmed. Do you know them? They are located in Greenville. That explained why every time Hayden tried to contact Minerva Hart over the past 2 weeks, he had no success. They have an office in Myrtle Beach, Hayden told the lawyers. It's probably just a few doors down from where you are. Chambers nodded and said, However, the main reason we wanted to meet with you today is to discuss the conflict that these 2 lawsuits create. Our firm can either represent Coastline Multimedia or you personally, Mr. Justice. It would not be right for us to do both. You need to decide who you want as your representative. Hemingway interrupted. Let me explain what my colleague means. Obviously, as president of Coastline, we could represent you in that role when we represent the company. Hayden cut in. I get it, gentlemen. I want Butler and Associates to represent Coastline in this case, and I want you to fight hard. This company has a strong history as an employer that looks out for everyone who works here. There will be no settlement, no compromises, and no acceptance of guilt for these claims. The issue with that approach, Chambers said, is that the lawsuit against you personally will affect how the company can defend itself. If you lose the case, the company would have a hard time denying any responsibility, especially given your position. If you win, the case against Coastline would likely become irrelevant. Okay, Hayden said. You mentioned another suit, one involving a current worker. Our favorite troublemaker, Emily said. Ashanti Cox is suing the company for discrimination. She's making various claims about her gender, race, and other issues. Hayden nodded and said, We know her claims are not true, and we have the records to prove it. He turned to the 2 lawyers again and said, I want your firm to represent Coastline only if you agree to fully defend the company against all claims made in this filing. Bring in any extra lawyers you need to respond to the case. Do you agree to these terms? Of course, Chambers said, with Hemingway also agreeing. Hayden organized the papers in front of him and asked Emily, "Can I have these copies?" Emily nodded, but Hemingway raised a hand. "I would suggest you don't do that, Mr. Justice." Hayden looked at the lawyer with a curious expression. Hemingway explained, "The papers were delivered to Coastline Multimedia by a process server who gave them to Miss Willis as an officer of the company. This means she can accept legal documents. However, she is not your representative, Mr. Justice. By serving her, the legal requirements were not properly met. You haven't been given notice of the filing, so it's better not to take the documents in front of you. As the president, you have the right to receive copies related to the company, but the longer you avoid accepting a copy of the filing that names you, the more you can delay the process." Hayden pushed the stack of documents back to Emily and said, "I don't want to delay things, but I understand your point. Thank you." Standing up, he told Emily, "Please make me a copy of the filings against the company when you have a moment. Also, see if you can find the employee badge photo for this Carlotta Lima and email it to me. I want to see if I recognize her." "This response has a big list of important lawyers in the South Carolina Bar Association," Lana said. "You're right," TJ agreed. "This justice guy must know a lot of people. Maybe we should have asked for more than 5 million. Minerva sat quietly, feeling frustrated. First, the process server had delivered the papers to the wrong person, causing a delay of over a week before the new server could deliver the legal papers correctly. This time, they went to a lawyer representing Hayden Justice instead of him directly. Her request to question Hayden Justice in a formal session was finally met with an agreement for him to only answer written questions. His legal team, which her colleagues noted was not only extensive but included some of the most respected trial lawyers in the state, continued to challenge her every move before the trial. Minerva had spent countless hours trying to deal with the challenges of her case. She was working hard to get the case dismissed and questioning every request for records and emails from Coastline Multimedia that could help her prove her point. Now, Hayden's legal team wanted to move the trial to an earlier date. Instead of waiting a month, they wanted it to start a week from next Wednesday. Minerva wasn't very familiar with the judges in Horry County, but she suspected that her opposing lawyers knew them quite well. If she wanted to fight back, she needed to find just the right reasons to convince the judge. Why wait? Minerva thought. Alex's last day of school was May 19th. With the discrimination trial starting on May 23rd, she could take him and her parents to Myrtle Beach a bit sooner than planned. She could finish the trial, enjoy Memorial Day weekend at the beach, and then get ready for the justice trial the following week. She asked TJ and Lana, "TJ, can you manage things in Greenville for a couple of weeks before joining me in Myrtle Beach?" "No problem," TJ replied confidently. "Great. Lana, please accept the new trial date in your response. I'll let you know when I plan to arrive once I talk to my parents. Let's succeed together, team." After losing the summary judgment that ended their discrimination case, Minerva confronted her client. "You didn't think it was important to tell me that one of the executives at Coastline Multimedia was a black woman," Minerva said. This case had not been a priority for her. She had mainly pursued it to keep Coastline Multimedia and their lawyers busy while she focused on getting a larger settlement from Hayden Justice. "You got the list of employees and their titles," Ashanti Cox argued. Minerva held back her frustration. "We requested the employee list, but it didn't include details about their backgrounds. Companies aren't required to keep that information, and many don't since it shows they don't make hiring decisions based on gender, race, or other factors. We had no proof to challenge their claims, and Coastline was able to show that they acted fairly. So the judge had no choice but to rule in favor of Coastline Multimedia." "That's really disappointing," Ashanti sighed. "When we go to trial, I'll share all the times I was denied vacation days, promotions, and pay raises because of who I am." Minerva felt a strong sense of frustration wash over her. Losing her perfect record in court was tough, but explaining things over and over to this client felt worse. "There won't be a trial," Minerva told Ashanti again. "A summary judgment finishes the case. It's over. I recommend you go back to work and learn to get along with your coworkers and boss." Angry, Ashanti gestured wildly and stormed down the courthouse hallway toward the exit. As Minerva packed her bag to follow, a middle-aged woman approached. She stood next to the black female executive from Coastline Multimedia. "Will you excuse us, Emily?" the woman said to her friend. Emily Willis smiled and replied, "I'll wait for you by your car." Corinne Justice waited until Emily walked a little distance before she said, "You are just as lovely as your sister was. Even though we had our differences, I was saddened to hear of her passing." Minerva stood taller and faced the woman she assumed was the CEO of Coastline Multimedia and Hayden Justice's mother. "I don't want or need your sympathy. I also have no feelings for the guilt your son may feel over his actions." "His actions?" asked Corinne Justice. "What actions do you think Hayden should feel guilty about?" With her bag over her shoulder, Minerva sighed. "What's the point? You're his mother, and I'm sure you'll defend him no matter what I say." "Try me," Corinne said, sitting on a bench and patting the space beside her. "As his mother, it's my duty to understand any guilt he feels. I raised him, and his actions reflect on me. Please, tell me what you mean." Minerva stood quietly, looking at Corinne Justice. She was strong but didn't seem very threatening. Minerva decided to sit next to Hayden's mother. "What do you want to know?" she asked more calmly. "Just what you believe Hayden should feel guilty about." Minerva felt irritation again. Looking directly into Corinne Justice's eyes, she asked, "You don't think a man who leaves a woman when she is expecting should feel bad about it?" "Oh," Corinne said honestly, "I certainly hope so. A man should always take responsibility for his actions and accept whatever comes from them. But what does that have to do with Hayden?" "Are you serious?" Minerva exclaimed. "You didn't know your son got Athena pregnant and then left her when she found out? He broke my sister's heart and showed no regret." "Is that how Athena explained things to you?" "She didn't need to," Minerva replied. "She told me about the man she loved, the man she spent 3 summers with, the only man she ever truly cared for." "Oh, dear," Corinne said gently, taking one of Minerva's hands in hers. "I'm worried that you have the wrong idea about things." Minerva stood up quickly, pulling her hand away from Corinne's. "I knew you would back him up." Without waiting for an answer, she stormed away, leaving a surprised Corinne sitting alone in the courthouse hallway. Feeling too upset to go back to the office after the lost case and the conversation with Corinne, Minerva decided to take the rest of the day off. She would talk about the case with Lana later. As she crossed over the intercoastal waterway and got closer to US 17 business, it became clear that preparations for Memorial Day were in full swing. The city had begun putting up signs in the middle of the road that would help direct traffic to and from Ocean Boulevard once the busy weekend started. In Myrtle Beach, it was common to turn Ocean Boulevard into a one-way street during Memorial Day weekend. Cars could only go south while all traffic heading north was directed onto US 17 business, known locally as King's Highway. Many local residents, especially those living near the affected roads, were unhappy about this change. They often complained about not being able to leave their neighborhoods while the new traffic rules were in place. Minerva was relieved that her condo was far from the busy area affected by the traffic changes. She paid no attention to the barricades and traffic signs being set up along her way. She would remind her parents to stay clear of the busy spots during the weekend since they usually avoided Myrtle Beach when it was crowded and didn't know the problems that could arise if they ventured into the entertainment district. "How did it go?" her mother Pandora asked as soon as Minerva walked into the condo. "This day has not gone as I thought it would," Minerva sighed. "Where's Alex?" Her mother was in the living room, sitting with her feet up while reading a magazine. "Your father took him to one of the arcades. We figured the crowds would make it hard to go there soon, so we decided to take him today instead." "What happened that made it so tough?" "The case didn't even reach trial," Minerva groaned as she sat down in a chair across from her mother. "The judge made a quick decision for the other side right after sitting down. I can't blame him, really. My client didn't give me strong enough points for the defense to easily counter." "I'm sorry," her mother said. "I know losing is difficult." Minerva shrugged. "It's part of the job." "Mom, can I ask you something about Athena?" She noticed her mother's surprised look and almost wished she hadn't brought it up. They had not talked much about Athena since she had passed away, choosing instead to focus on caring for her son. "What do you want to know?" her mother finally asked. Minerva thought about her question carefully. She wanted to ask without upsetting her mother. She finally said, "Athena never told me anything about Alex's father. Did she say anything to you?" Her mother put down the magazine she was reading and said, "Not really. You have to remember that after you two went to college, your father and I started traveling. We emailed and called when we could, but we didn't have long talks like we did before. I got the feeling that Athena really cared about the boy, whoever he was, and I think it was someone she met during her summer internships here in Myrtle Beach." Minerva nodded. "I felt the same way. It must have been someone she got close to during those summers, and I always thought it was the same person each year." Pandora added, "I think she tried to stay in touch with him during the school year. But after that first summer, she worked so hard to finish her degree quickly that I wonder how well she managed it. She was so dedicated. We talked about helping your sister with the baby once he was born, so she could finish her last classes for her master's." "What do you mean?" Minerva gasped. "Athena was only 2 years ahead of me, so she wouldn't have finished her undergraduate studies yet." Her mother looked surprised. "You didn't know Athena had started her master's?" "She only had about 9 credits and her thesis left to finish." "How?" Minerva asked, confused. "She worked really hard," her mother replied. "Athena took on a heavy course load her first 2 semesters at Clemson, and after her first summer internship, she signed up for even more classes, including some online. Remember, this was when she asked us to let her get her own apartment to escape the distractions of roommates." "I remember a bit," Minerva said. "She finished her undergraduate courses in less than 6 semesters, Pandora said proudly. Then she focused on getting her master's as fast as she could. She never explained why she was in such a hurry, but looking back, I think it had to do with wanting to be close to whoever she was seeing in Myrtle Beach. She wanted to remove any obstacles so they could be together more often." "She never talked about this with you, but you're guessing?" Minerva asked. "Yes, that's right." It almost felt like Athena believed that sharing details about her relationship would bring bad luck. "We've talked about this before." "I know," Minerva replied. "But did she ever give you any hints about who he might be? Did she mention a name? More importantly, did she ever seem unsure about knowing who the father of her baby was?" "No," her mother said. "Nothing at all. I remember we talked about what she would write on the baby's birth certificate for the father's name. All she said was that she would leave it blank for now. It wasn't that she didn't know who it was. She just wasn't ready to fill it in yet. Do you understand?" Minerva's thoughts wandered, but she pulled them back and said, "I think I do." Pandora asked, "Why the sudden curiosity about the father?" Ignoring the question, Minerva asked, "Mom, if you knew who Alexander's father was and met him, what would you say or do?" "Before or after showing my disappointment," Pandora replied. Minerva smiled. "You'd have to wait in line behind me. I'm going to change and maybe relax by the pool for a bit. Will you text me when Dad and Alex get back?" The condo where her parents had bought a unit years ago was more of a residential place than a resort. It was home to owners and their guests rather than tourists. Some owners rented out their units long-term, but short-term rentals were not allowed. This made the pool area quieter and filled with a more mature crowd. Minerva recognized some of her neighbors as she chose a lounge chair off to the side of the patio area under an umbrella that blocked most of the late afternoon sun. She wasn't looking to tan, and her outfit showed that. Wearing a pale blue tank top and denim shorts, she wanted to relax comfortably to the sound of the ocean without needing to go on the sand. Her conversation with her mother was still on her mind as she looked at her phone. She thought about her earlier meeting with Corinne Justice and decided to find out more. It took her a moment to locate his name in her contacts, and she briefly wondered why she hadn't deleted his information. Quickly, she typed a short text message and sent it off. "Minnie, can I ask you a few questions?" After 5 minutes with no reply, Minerva laughed, drawing the attention of several other residents nearby. Shaking her head at what she had done, she thought about her next move. Of course, there was no answer. She had Hayden's number blocked. This meant he could not call or text her. If she wanted to talk, she would have to unblock him or call him. She chose to call. I was wondering when you would figure it out, Hayden said when he picked up. She could hear a bit of humor in his voice. Minerva tried to keep a serious tone, even though she felt a smile coming on about her mistake. She said, "I'm glad I can make you smile. Maybe that will help you be open to answering some questions for me." "I don't want to be difficult," Hayden replied kindly, "but I'm not sure it's wise to chat. Is this talk off the record, or should I have my lawyers ready?" "I understand, and truthfully, if I were one of your lawyers, I would tell you to hang up on me," she admitted. "But I really need to talk. My questions are about Athena. Well, about Athena and you, to be exact. They have nothing to do with any ongoing legal matters." Hayden was quiet for a moment as he thought about her request. Finally, he said, "Athena is not my favorite topic, but she has been on my mind a lot lately. I have some questions that you might be able to answer." "I don't know," Minerva sighed. "I'm embarrassed to say how little I know about my own sister. That's part of why I want to ask you. It seems like you knew her better than her own family in the time before she passed." There was more silence on his end, and she waited patiently. He finally said, "Can I have a day or two to think about it?" "Sure," Minerva replied, but she knew he could hear her disappointment. She added, "And Hayden, I'm going to unblock your number. I'm not sure if our next talk will make me want to block it again, but you'll be able to share your answer when you decide." "Okay." Minerva felt he was about to end the call, so she quickly asked, "Can you answer one question for me?" "What is it?" "Did you know that Athena was expecting a baby?" Minerva asked softly. This silence lasted a long time, making Minerva check her phone to make sure the call was still connected. Finally, Hayden's voice came through, thick with emotion. "Believe me, she made that very clear the last time we spoke." Minerva stayed quiet as she watched her phone screen go back to the home display when Hayden hung up. Her brother's words rang in her mind, and she struggled to understand them. It was true that she and Athena had not been very close in the last 4 years of her sister's life, but they had shared 16 years growing up together. Minerva knew who her sister truly was. Deep down, there was no way that Athena could be the heartless person Hayden claimed she was, at least not towards him. He must have done something to hurt her. That was the only answer that made sense. Chapter 10. Hayden often thought about what made walking on the beach so calming. Was it the sand between his toes, the warm breeze, the sound of waves crashing, or the salty air? In the end, he felt it didn't matter. A walk on the beach was the most relaxing thing he could do. That was, until something disturbed his peace. "I can't wait any longer," a young boy complained. He seemed to be pleading with a woman who looked to be his grandmother or another relative. The woman sighed in frustration as she pulled the boy along the beach toward the street. "There are no public restrooms nearby. We'll have to wait until we get back to the condo." As they approached Hayden, he spoke up. "Excuse me, do you see that light blue house about 30 yards to the north?" The woman turned around and looked back at the direction they came from. "Yes, what about it?" she asked. Hayden replied, "If you walk up the path through the dunes to that house, you should find a nice lady sitting by the pool reading a book. Just tell her son sent you, and I'm sure she will let you use the pool house. There is a restroom there that might help this young man." The boy quickly grabbed the woman's hand, eager to head toward the house. She called back to Hayden as they walked away, "Thank you." Corinne Justice had seen her son's kind act on the beach and suspected he had once again offered someone the use of the pool house. She often wondered why he bothered to lock the door. Originally, Corinne planned to spend the holiday weekend on the yacht in Charleston Harbor, but given Hayden's sad mood for the past month, she decided to stay with him a bit longer. He might not need her help with running the company every day, but she was still his mother, always ready to support him in his personal life. Hayden had left his cell phone on the table next to where his mother sat by the pool. For the umpteenth time that day, Corinne hoped the phone would ring. She was waiting for the psychiatrist who had sent Hayden some important papers, but the promised call never came. Corinne thought this was making Hayden feel worse than the court cases he was dealing with. As she lowered her sunglasses, Corinne noticed a woman and a boy walking toward her. The woman looked to be about 52, just like Corinne, and the boy seemed to be between 8 and 12. This reminded her of Hayden when he was around that age. He had been tall, but still looked quite young. "Excuse us," the woman said as they stepped onto the patio. "A young man who says he's your son offered my grandson the use of a restroom." Corinne picked up a key from the table and handed it to the woman. "Of course. This key will open the pool house, and the bathroom is to the right when you go in." The boy eagerly took the key and rushed to the pool house, leaving his grandmother and a smiling Corinne behind. "Please sit down," Corinne said with a laugh. "There isn't much trouble he can get into in there, so relax while you wait for him. I'm Corey, by the way." The woman adjusted her seat so she could face Corinne. "Thank you, Corey. I'm Pandora, and that little rascal is my grandson, Alexander. We appreciate your kindness." "Oh, you're welcome," Corey replied. "But I'm just a guest here, too. The house belongs to my son, so he's the one you should thank." Corey had built the large beach house with her husband in the 1990s, but after her husband passed away, she had handed over the house to Hayden. She chose to spend most of her time in Charleston, where she enjoyed the social scene. Living on her yacht was perfect for her, and she could easily hire a crew when she wanted to explore new places. Pandora looked at the house and its beautiful yard as she asked, "We'll be sure to thank your son on our way back. If you don't live here, where are you visiting from?" "I live on a boat in Charleston Harbor. What about you?" Pandora looked at the pool house before responding, "My husband and I live in Greenville, but we have a condo not far from here." She pointed toward the beach and added, "My husband wanted to try a new area for his treasure hunting. That's him out there with the metal detector." Corey squinted as she searched for the man with the metal detector. She finally spotted him about 200 yards up the beach. She said, "My husband was really into metal detecting for a while, but he got frustrated with it. I bet that thing is still somewhere in the garage." Hearing the door to the pool house, both women turned to see the boy coming back. He smiled at Corey and handed her the key, saying, "Thank you. I'm sorry for being rude earlier, but I really had to go." Corey smiled as she took the key and said, "We've all been there. I'm glad you managed to take care of it." Alex smiled back and said, "It was close, but I made it. Thanks." "Your grandmother tells me your name is Alexander," Corey said. "How old are you?" Alex glanced at his grandmother and saw her nod, so he answered, "I just turned 10. Yes, my name is Alexander Hart, but everyone calls me Alex, at least when they're not upset with me." Corey laughed with Pandora at the boy's comment, but she felt surprised when she heard his full name. She studied his face more closely as he asked his grandmother if he could go look for shark teeth on the beach. Pandora started to get up from her chair, but Corey gently placed a hand on her arm and said, "Please stay for a bit. We can watch him from here, and my son is right over there if he needs anything." Settling back in her seat, Pandora told her grandson to stay in sight before letting him head back to the beach. Both women watched as Alex ran down the path in the dunes, kicking up sand. Corey asked, "Are you taking care of him for his parents?" Hayden didn't hear the question or the answer because the distance and the sound of the waves made it hard to hear their voices. He did hear the boy ask, "Are you looking for shark teeth too?" Looking down, Hayden noticed the boy's eyes focused on his left hand, which was closed as if he was holding something. He smiled and replied, "No. Once you found a megalodon tooth, regular shark teeth aren't as interesting." "You found a megalodon tooth?" the boy asked, amazed. "Can I see it?" Hayden laughed and said, "I didn't find it today. I found it a long time ago and I keep it at home." "Where's your house?" the boy pressed. Hayden pointed in the direction of his house and said, "It's the house where you just used the bathroom. That was my mother who let you into the pool house." "Oh, right. Thanks for that. I almost had an accident." Hayden laughed again and opened his hand to show the boy what he was holding. "I'm looking for more of these." "Rocks?" asked the boy, confused. "What's so special about rocks?" Hayden explained, "They're not just rocks, they're hagstones. Do you know what those are?" The boy shook his head and waited for Hayden to explain. "They're kind of like a four-leaf clover," Hayden began. "Hagstones are thought to be good luck. They can protect you from bad things." When he saw the unsure look on the boy's face, Hayden continued, "It's all about the hole. The legend says that only good things can pass through a hole. So, Good luck can find you through a hagstone, while bad luck gets stuck. Some believe that magic can't work on moving water. Since the hole in a hagstone is made by moving water, it acts as a shield against negativity. Would you like to have one? Hayden held out his hand with the palm up so the boy could choose one of the 2 hagstones he had found on his walk. The boy thanked him, picked the smaller stone, and eagerly began searching the beach for more hagstones. "Here's one!" he shouted with excitement as he bent down to pick something up from the sand. He held it up for Hayden to see, but looked disappointed when Hayden shook his head. In a comforting voice, Hayden said, "Look at it compared to the one I gave you. That stone has a hole in it, but it also has many other smaller holes. That means it's probably a piece of old lava. The holes were likely made when the lava cooled, not by water, so it can't have the special qualities of a hagstone." The boy threw the stone into the ocean and sighed, "Aw, man." Chuckling, Hayden said, "If hagstones were easy to find, they wouldn't be as special. Keep searching, and I'm sure you'll find one along the beach. If you ever go to a lake, river, or stream, you can look for them there too." "I'll ask my grandpa to help me find some next time he takes me to Lake Hartwell to fish," the boy said. "My grandpa's over there with the metal detector." With a smile, Hayden leaned down and spoke gently to the boy. "You might want to tell your grandpa that this isn't the best spot for a metal detector." The boy looked up at Hayden and asked, "Why not?" "Because this part of the beach might not have what he is looking for," Hayden explained. Looking down at the sand, the boy said, "Oh." "Come on," Hayden said. "You can come with me while I explain it to your grandpa." The look of frustration on the boy's grandpa's face was one Hayden had seen before. He had seen similar things happen with his father before he decided to stop looking for treasure with his metal detector. Signaling for the man to take off his headphones, Hayden stepped closer. "Good afternoon," Hayden said. "I was telling your grandson that you might want to think twice about searching along this part of the beach." "I think I figured that out already," the man said, opening his hand. In his palm, there were more than a dozen metal washers, each about an inch wide. "I'm afraid you've entered my area where metal detecting doesn't work," Hayden said. "For 100 yards on each side of that blue house over there, you won't find any treasure because of all those washers." "Why are there so many washers on this beach?" the man asked. Hayden looked at the boy and asked, "How old are you? 12? "I'm 10, the boy replied. "Okay, when I was 2 years older than you, my dad got a metal detector like yours. He spent so much time on the beach looking for treasure that he didn't play catch with me or spend time together. One day when he took me to work, I found a drawer filled with those washers. I filled my pockets with them and spent the afternoon spreading them across the beach where my dad used to search. Every time I went with him after that, I brought more washers to scatter around." The boy's grandfather laughed at Hayden's story. When he calmed down, he asked, "How long did it take your father to figure out what you did?" Hayden shrugged and said, "He never realized. He just eventually stopped and put the metal detector away." "That's an amazing story," the man said. Then he asked, "Alex, where's your grandma?" Alexander pointed toward Hayden and said to his grandfather, "She's talking to his mom over at that light blue house." The group saw Pandora walking down the path through the dunes toward the beach. Hayden gave the boy a pat on the head. "Here she comes now. I should head back home. It was nice meeting you, Alex." "Okay, thanks for the hagstone." As he walked by Pandora, Hayden stopped to talk to her. "You can come over any time if you need to use the facilities. Alex is fun to have around." "Thank you for your kindness. He wasn't any trouble for you?" Pandora asked. "Not at all," Hayden assured her. "Bring him by whenever you like." Corinne Justice was still sitting in the same chair when Hayden came onto the patio, but now she wasn't reading her book. She was watching her son as he approached. "Do you know who that boy is?" Corinne asked as Hayden walked by her toward the house. Hayden paused and looked at his mother. "I heard him called Alex. The woman is his grandmother, and the man with the metal detector is his grandfather." "Why?" With surprising speed, Corinne took Hayden's hand and said, "Come with me." She guided him into the house, through the large family room, past the kitchen, and up the stairs to the second floor. Opening the door to the room she used when staying there, She nudged her son inside and followed him. Pointing to a photo hanging on the wall, Corinne said, "Look at that picture and tell me you don't recognize that boy." Hayden glanced at the photo his mother was pointing to. He easily recognized it and remembered when it was taken. He was 10 years old, standing on the beach with a life jacket and a banana boat behind him. With a big smile from a fun day, he looked like the happiest kid. "What am I supposed to see?" Hayden asked. "Hayden Oliver Justice, don't play silly with me," his mother warned. "You know that boy from the beach looks just like you did at his age." Turning to face his mother, Hayden looked shocked as he said, "Mom, there must be many boys who look similar to how I did back then. That doesn't mean anything." Corinne smiled and said, "Okay then, how about this? The boy who looks a lot like you is named Alexander Hart. Does that name sound familiar?" Hayden shrugged, saying, "I knew his name was Alex, and Hart isn't an unusual last name." Corinne's impatience showed in her voice. "It's not common for a boy named Alexander Hart to have a grandmother named Pandora. She told me the boy's mother was named Athena, and she passed away soon after he was born." Trying to stay calm about the topic of Athena's child, Hayden said, "Just because the child might belong to Athena Hart doesn't mean he is related to me. How can you forget Athena telling me I wasn't the father?" Corinne hugged her son tightly and said, "I know what she told you. I also know what I saw. That boy is your son. I don't know why Athena would say that, but I can't ignore the chance she might be wrong. He could be my grandson. Believe what you want, Mom. Just keep me out of it." Minerva watched Alex crawling in and out of dinosaur eggs with other kids and felt a little sorry for him as he struggled with his larger size. He was already taller than most boys his age, which helped him in many sports but made it harder to join in on activities meant for younger kids. She was glad her parents had chosen not to come with her and Alex to the Dinoland Cafe for dinner. It likely wouldn't have mattered because the place was too noisy for them to discuss their day at the beach. She had a pretty good idea of what happened just from listening to Alex talk about the kind and knowledgeable man he had met, who, from her mother's description, seemed to be Hayden Justice. Minerva had spent 6 hours that day going through statements from employees at Coastline Multimedia regarding Hayden Justice, and she did not want to spend the rest of her Saturday evening discussing him with her parents or her nephew. It was hard enough for her to keep him out of her mind without anyone else bringing him up. Both Minerva and Lana saw that making Hayden Justice look like someone who targeted young female interns at Coastline would be challenging. Even in the only other case they found where Hayden had interacted with an intern, every employee who had seen it said they did not witness anything improper from him. This other case involved her sister Athena, which initially caught Minerva's attention. Her instincts told her that any man who could move on from a situation he claimed to care about must have shown some traits she could use against him. If she could show that Carlotta Lima's claims were not just random, but part of a pattern of behavior that made both Hayden and the company responsible, her case would be stronger. Every Coastline employee that Lana spoke with, who had worked there during Athena's 3 summer internships, insisted that they had never seen anything improper or unprofessional happen between Hayden Justice and Athena Hart. Many knew that the two had worked on several projects together, and some hinted at suspicions about their relationship, but they couldn't offer any concrete proof to back their thoughts, saying, "They're both so impressive and match each other perfectly. How could they not have a connection?" Was a nice thought, but it didn't help her case at all. No one they talked to had seen Athena and Hayden getting close at work, and nobody admitted to seeing them together outside of work. The only thing Minerva could link to Hayden Justice being involved with an intern in a questionable way was his own suggestion during their few conversations that he liked Athena. Naturally, she couldn't use that suggestion against him in court, and she certainly couldn't ask him the other questions about Athena that she wanted to. Minerva looked at her cell phone on the table in front of her. She had checked every evening since her last conversation with Hayden to see if she had missed a call or a message where he agreed to answer her questions. Nothing. She picked up the phone, found his contact details, and blocked him again. She would get the answers she wanted from him in court. Chapter 11. "All rise," the bailiff announced. The courtroom fell quiet as everyone stood. When the door behind the bench opened and the judge walked in, Minerva glanced to her right at the defense table. She didn't know Megan James, the female lawyer on Hayden's team, but Lana had told her that while Megan might look beautiful, she was known for being strong in court. Minerva had to admit that Megan James was striking. Her beauty was styled to show her professionalism. From her neatly arranged hair to the fitted dress and matching jacket, she gave off an image of seriousness with a touch of something mysterious. Minerva wondered how she would do against Miss James in front of the jury. That shouldn't be a problem today, as she and her team had decided to let TJ lead in presenting their case, with Minerva serving as co-counsel. Minerva suggested this to give TJ a chance to gain some trial experience. This was definitely one reason, but Minerva's main concern was that her team planned to discuss the past connection between Hayden Justice and Athena Hart during their presentation. She didn't want the jury to see her as biased because she was Athena's sister, which could weaken the impact of that relationship on their view of Hayden Justice. The bailiff waited for the judge to sit down before saying, "The Court of Common Pleas is now in session. The Honorable Dean Brunner presiding." "You may be seated," Judge Brunner said, turning to the jury to give them some final instructions. Taking a seat next to Carlotta Lima, who sat between her and TJ, Minerva looked at the jury panel. She and her team were pleased with the makeup of this jury and had worked hard to ensure it was in their favor. The 8 women on the jury were all working professionals in non-managerial roles. "Justice?" TJ asked. "I don't think so. It was just the 2 of us in the hallway at that time," Carlotta answered. "Thank you, Miss Lima. No further questions for now," TJ said as he returned to his chair. Judge Brunner turned to the defense. "Would you like to start your cross-examination?" The defense lawyer stood, adjusting his glasses. "Miss Lima, you mentioned you didn't see anyone else with holiday-themed hair. Is that right?" "Yes," Carlotta replied. "But you also mentioned that you don't notice other people's hair?" "That's correct," she said. "Interesting. So, do you think your feelings about Mr. Justice's remarks might have been shaped by your own views?" "I guess that could be true, but I still felt uneasy," Carlotta insisted. "Thank you." "No more questions," the defense attorney said, nodding at the judge. Judge Brunner nodded back. "You can leave the stand." As Carlotta walked away, Minerva felt a mix of relief and hope. She sensed the mood in the courtroom was changing, but their case was still strong. "Justice?" TJ asked. Carlotta nodded and replied, "I didn't realize it then, but after Mr. Justice left our department that day, my mentor, Ashanti Cox, told me that touching between co-workers is not professional. When I explained what had happened, she suggested I talk to human resources." Looking at the jury, he asked, "And did you report it?" "I intended to," Carlotta said, "but Ashanti reminded me that it was my last week as an intern before going back to school. She thought it would be hard to follow up since I wouldn't be working at Coastline Multimedia anymore." "That's understandable," TJ said, wanting the jurors to see why she didn't report something she was now seeking help for. Then he asked, "Can you share why you later chose to pursue this matter?" Nodding again, Carlotta responded, "Once I finished the graphic design program at HGTC and started my job search, it became clear that the best opportunities in my field were at Coastline Multimedia, unless I wanted to move. I had kept in touch with Ashanti, and we talked about the chance of running into Mr. Justice again if I got hired there. Ashanti told me she had faced unfair treatment from Mr. Justice and that HR always supported him, since he is the president of the company. She encouraged me to consider legal action with an organization that Mr. Justice couldn't sway." "Thank you, Miss Lima," TJ said before addressing Judge Brunner. "I have no more questions for now." Judge Brunner nodded and then said, "Your witness, Miss James." Minerva watched as TJ returned to his seat. She felt more confident about their case as Megan James seemed less eager to question the witness. The opposing counsel took a last look at her notes before standing and walking to the witness stand. Everyone in the room followed her movements closely. "Miss Lima," Megan James began, "I have just a few questions for you. First, you said you didn't report anything your client did because you were getting ready to go back to school and couldn't check up on it later. Is that right?" Nodding, Carlotta replied, "Yes, that's right." "Thank you. Can you tell the court the exact date when you say my client touched you?" Carlotta hid her smile inside. She had been prepared for this question. It was Thursday, August 17th of last year, she said confidently. Megan nodded and asked, "Do you also remember the time on August 17th? It was just before my lunchtime that day, around 11:45 a.m. "Thank you," Megan said. "I have one more question for you, Miss Lima. What is your orientation?" Chapter 12. "Objection!" shouted T.J. Washington. "Irrelevant." He started to stand when Judge Brunner signaled him to stay seated. Megan James stood calmly by the witness stand with her hands in front of her, waiting for the judge's response. She wouldn't say anything unless asked by the judge. The judge spoke to T.J. "Mr. Washington, your client is a woman. The defendant is a man. Please explain how the orientation of someone saying that the opposite sex made comments she found offensive is irrelevant. Can you do that?" T.J. looked at Minerva, but didn't get any cues from her, so he replied, "I withdraw my objection, Your Honor." Judge Brunner addressed Megan James. "You may ask your question." Megan turned back to the witness and asked, "Miss Lima, what is your orientation?" This wasn't a question her lawyers had prepared her for. Carlotta glanced at Minerva, who nodded at her. Taking a deep breath, she faced the defense attorney and said, "I identify as part of the LGBTQ community." Megan had no visible reaction and said to the judge, "I have no more questions, Your Honor." "Very well," Judge Brunner said. "Mr. Washington, do you want to ask more questions?" "Yes, we do," Minerva replied as she stood. Without waiting for the judge's comment, she approached the witness stand. "Miss Lima, do you know if Mr. T. Justice was aware of your orientation?" Carlotta thought for a moment and said, "I don't hide that I'm part of the LGBTQ community, but I don't show it off either, so I can't say for sure if Mr. Justice knew or suspected. I just know that he often made me feel like he was interested in me in a way that felt uncomfortable." "Thank you," Minerva said. "No further questions, Your Honor." As Minerva sat down again, Judge Brunner announced, "The witness may leave the stand." "Witness, please call your next person." TJ waited for Carlotta to come back to her seat beside him before he stood and said, "I would like to call Ashanti Cox." Minerva had warned TJ to be careful with Ashanti because she might talk about her concerns with workplace issues during her testimony, which could take attention away from the case. TJ asked Ashanti questions based on her earlier statements about Hayden Justice's comments regarding Carlotta's hair and the incident where there was contact. He used her testimony to bring the Coastline Multimedia Employee Manual into the case and asked her how well it was followed. He also made sure Ashanti confirmed the date and time of the incident to support Carlotta's story. When he finished, TJ felt good that he had addressed any doubts the defense might have about Ashanti. "Mrs. Cox," Megan started when it was her turn to question Ashanti, "how long have you worked at Coastline Multimedia?" "It will be 4 years in October," Ashanti replied. "So that means you have had 3 yearly performance reviews during your time at Coastline. Is that correct?" "I guess so," Ashanti said nervously. Megan kept a calm and professional voice. "You guess so? Mrs. Cox, doesn't your employer have a policy to give employees a yearly review of their work and a plan for how to improve?" Ashanti looked at Minerva and TJ, possibly for help, but Judge Brunner quickly said, "The witness will answer the question." "Yes," Ashanti answered. "Great," said Megan. "Thank you, Mrs. Cox. Now, can you tell the court the score from your most recent performance review?" "Objection, Your Honor," TJ said. "This witness's performance is not what we are here to talk about. Mr. Justice's is." Megan responded to the objection, "Your Honor, the plaintiff has brought this witness in as an expert on her employer's policies. I'm just showing she knows about this." "Objection overruled," Judge Brunner decided. "The witness will answer the question." Megan turned back to Ashanti and repeated, "Please tell the court the score from your most recent performance review." "I don't remember," Ashanti said. "It was months ago." Megan returned to the defense table and picked up a document. As she walked back to the front, she addressed the judge. "May I, Your Honor?" Judge Brunner nodded for her to continue. Megan handed him the document and waited while he looked it over. He handed it back and spoke to the court. "Let the record show that the defense is giving the witness a copy of her last performance review. This is not being presented as evidence but only to help the witness answer the question." Megan gave the document to Ashanti. Ashanti hesitated but then took it and glanced down. "Please tell the court your rating from that review," Megan said. After looking for the number, Ashanti took a moment before saying, "It was a 61. A 61, thank you. Now, aren't there specific categories for employee performance review scores like eligible for advancement, performing to grade, or needs improvement?" Ashanti looked up and replied with some annoyance, "Yes." Megan continued, "Please tell the court what category a rating of 61 falls into." Ashanti checked the document again before saying, "It is in the mandatory PEP category." "PEP?" Megan asked. "Does that mean performance improvement plan?" "Yes," Ashanti answered. "Thank you, Mrs. Cox. Now, can you please read the section in the document that shows the feedback from your supervisor?" Ashanti turned to the section and read the highlighted comment silently. "Please read that part out loud for the court," Megan prompted. Ashanti has had issues with consistent attendance and has sometimes caused tension among staff by encouraging others to file unverified complaints about workplace conduct. Megan took the document from Ashanti and returned it to the defense table before asking her next question. "Mrs. Cox, you said that on August 17th of last year you saw Mr. Justice make contact with Carlotta Lima. Is that right?" Feeling encouraged by the questions, Ashanti replied, "Yes, that is correct." Megan then said to the judge, "Your Honor, the defense would like to enter into evidence this certified copy of test results dated August 17th of last year." Judge Brunner reviewed the document and then handed it to the court clerk. "Please mark this as Defense Exhibit 1. The clerk did as instructed and returned the document to Megan James, who then gave it to Ashanti. "Mrs. Cox, do you recognize this document?" Ashanti proudly replied, "It's the test results from when I passed the network exam. That was very tough." Megan nodded and said, "Congratulations. Can you tell the court where you took this exam?" Thinking back to the place, Ashanti answered, "I took it at the authorized testing center here in Conway." "Do you remember what time on August 17th you started the exam?" Megan asked. "If you need help recalling, the time is at the top of the test results." "Can you tell us what it says?" "It says I began the test at 11:20 a.m., Ashanti replied. Megan nodded and said, "I understand that a tough exam would need a lot of studying. Did you do a quick review that morning to get ready for it?" Feeling proud of her efforts, Ashanti answered, "I spent a few hours before the exam going over questions." "Does Coastline give employees paid time off for these work-related tests?" Megan asked. Ashanti nodded again. Judge Brunner reminded her, "Mrs. Cox, we need you to speak your answers, not just nod." "Yes," she said. Megan continued, "Considering your attendance review at Coastline, can we assume you used the paid time off on August 17th to prepare for this exam?" Ashanti realized that if she admitted she didn't go to work before the exam on August 17th, she would contradict what she had previously said about seeing Hayden Justice talking to Carlotta Lima. Yet she saw no way to avoid this now. She also suspected Megan had the records from Coastline that would show she hadn't returned to work after the exam either. "I think Carlotta and I were confused about the day, Mr. Justice approached her," Ashanti said. "Objection, Your Honor," Megan interjected. "Please tell the witness to only answer the questions asked." "Sustained," Judge Brunner agreed. He turned to the court reporter and said, "Please remove those comments from the record." Then, addressing the jury, he said, "Disregard the last comments from the witness." He gave Ashanti a serious look and said, "Mrs. Cox, if you say anything not related to the questions asked, I will hold you in contempt of court. Do you understand?" Feeling scolded, Ashanti murmured, "Yes, sir." "Miss James," the judge said, "please ask your question again." TJ looked at Minerva, wishing he could read her thoughts. His little experience in court had not prepared him for this situation. He wished he could ask Minerva how to steer their case back on track after Ashanti's surprising statement that seemed to mess up their timeline. TJ might not know what Minerva was thinking, but she appeared to sense his thoughts. She pushed her notepad across the table so TJ could see what she had written. "Please ask for a short break when you can." Sadly, The chance for a break did not come until after Megan James got Ashanti to admit that she had not been to any Coastline Multimedia offices on August 17th and had not spoken to anyone from the company that day. When Ashanti was asked if she wanted to suggest another date for when Hayden Justice and Carlotta Lima had their meeting, she couldn't think of one. The judge's door had just closed when Minerva grabbed Ashanti by her arm and led her out of the courtroom, quickly finding a quiet spot. TJ hurried after them, but Minerva was not happy to see Ashanti had followed. "No," Minerva said firmly. "I don't want you here right now. Go find a place to wait, and I'll come for you when we are done." Ashanti stopped in surprise, and when she recovered, she replied, "You can't talk to me like that." "Just sit somewhere while I try to keep both of you safe," Minerva warned. They watched as Ashanti struggled with her feelings. Eventually, she squared her shoulders, turned, and left the corridor quickly. TJ said. "She isn't allowed to leave yet, is she?" Minerva shook her head. "No, but that's not our main worry right now." Turning to their client, she asked, "Carlotta, can you tell me what just happened in there? I thought you were sure about the date." Tears slipped down Carlotta's cheeks as she cried, "That was the date, but I didn't talk to Ashanti about it until the next day because she wasn't there on the 17th. She got me to say that she saw it, and I guess she thought no one would question the date." Minerva sighed and asked, "Carlotta, did anyone else see Hayden Justice with you?" Carlotta shook her head. "Okay," Minerva continued. "Your answers to TJ's questions made it sound like Ashanti had seen Mr. Justice's actions, but you never actually said she did. Her talking about the event could have happened the next day. Do you agree?" Carlotta nodded silently. Minerva exchanged a glance with TJ before continuing, "Carlotta, this is important. Is there anything else that Ashanti or someone else has told you to say that isn't completely true?" Neither attorney felt at ease when their client hesitated before shaking her head. Pointing toward the women's restroom, Minerva gently patted Carlotta's arm. "Go freshen up and meet us back here. Be quick because we only have a few minutes before the judge comes back to start again." Chapter 13. After their client walked away, Minerva spoke quietly to TJ. "Okay, Ashanti's words might have made the jury wonder if Hayden Justice could have approached Carlotta. We can clear that up by showing he had a strong reason to do so. It's important to tell the jurors about his relationship with my sister. Please feel free to look at any notes I might give you." TJ replied, "I don't think that chance is gone. When I have Willis on the stand, I want to mention the cameras." "Good idea," Minerva agreed. "Let's get her up next. The sooner we show there was a chance for justice to act, the stronger our case will be with the jurors." All the lawyers and their clients were still getting ready when the bailiff asked everyone to stand for the judge. Once the judge entered and gave permission, everyone took their seats. "You may call your next witness, Mr. Washington." "I would like to call Emily Willis to the stand." Emily Willis looked professional without needing to dress up. Minerva imagined that the vice president of human resources for Coastline Multimedia had a professional air about her. The bailiff swore her in, and as she settled into her seat, TJ began to ask questions, explaining her role at Coastline Multimedia and why she was important to the case. After laying the groundwork, TJ asked, "Mrs. Willis, can you tell the court how the summer intern program at Coastline Multimedia started?" "Sure. The idea was presented to our then-president, Clint Justice, to give qualified college and technical school students a chance to learn about our products and services. It was meant to provide them with real-world experience in their studies and to help attract promising young people to the company after they graduated." TJ nodded and asked, "Do you remember who suggested this idea to Clint Justice?" Emily smiled and said, "It was his son, Hayden Justice. At the time, Hayden was a student at Coastal Carolina University. I think he came up with the idea after talking with some friends and teachers at the university. CCU was the first school to join the program, followed closely by Clemson University." "So," TJ said, "you agree that Hayden Justice was behind the summer internship program at Coastline?" Without pause, Emily replied, "I wouldn't say it was just his idea. Hayden brought the concept to his father. Then, Mr. Justice made a committee of company executives to look into how to make the program work and put together the plan for it. I was in charge of making sure the program was put into action and stayed on track every summer." "I understand," TJ said. How were the students chosen for the program and who made the final decisions? Emily responded, students from all participating schools could apply for the summer internship program. My department reviews the applications first. We look at their grades, previous work experience, and housing arrangements. Housing arrangements? TJ interrupted. Yes, even though we accepted applicants from as far away as Clemson, those selected had to find their own places to stay during the program. Coastline did not provide housing or any help with accommodation. Nodding, TJ said, that makes sense. Please go on. What happens after your team finishes the first round of applications? Emily took a sip of the water given to her and continued. The applications of students who meet the requirements are sent to the executive committee. Here, the heads of different divisions choose candidates they believe would be a good fit for their teams. Edmonds recognized Athena Hart's skills and wanted to keep her on. That shows she made a difference during her internship, right? TJ asked. Emily nodded. Yes, she did a great job and understood both marketing ideas and production well. Can we say Miss Hart helped bring teams together at Coastline? TJ asked. Definitely, Emily said. Her ability to connect different departments helped many projects succeed. Was there a specific special project she worked on that stood out? TJ asked. One important project was creating a marketing strategy that included feedback from both the creative and technical teams, Emily explained. TJ thought for a moment and then asked, how did her co-workers in the marketing department see her? She was respected for her ideas and contributions. People often thought of her as a key team member, Emily replied. Thank you, Mrs. Willis, TJ said, finishing his questions. He stepped back, allowing the jury to think about Athena Hart's importance at Coastline Multimedia. Miss Hart received her assignments from Mr. Justice, but Edmonds leads the marketing department. Why is that? TJ asked. Emily sighed and said, Mr. Justice, Clint Justice, along with 3 other executives at Coastline Multimedia, including Deborah Edmonds, sadly passed away in a small plane crash on March 3, 2012. When Hayden Justice took over as president after his father's passing, his main job for the next 2 years was to run the marketing department until a new vice president could be found. Thankfully, Corinne Justice stepped in to help Hayden during this period. Mrs. Willis, how much do you think Hayden Justice helped Athena Hart get her job as a contract employee? Someone asked. Emily shrugged and replied, it's clear that without Hayden Justice's help, Athena Hart would not have become a contract employee at Coastline Multimedia during those 2 summers. TJ smiled at this and said, isn't it against Coastline's rules for someone in a senior position to choose a contract employee directly? Yes, that's true, Emily agreed. But Hayden's influence wasn't in that way. Athena Hart actually turned down the job when one of my team members offered it to her. Hayden was the one who encouraged her to accept it. And how did Mr. Justice convince her to take the role? TJ pressed. What did he do? I can't say for sure what he said, Emily admitted. I'm just glad he did because Athena was a great help to Coastline during her time here. Moving on, TJ asked, did you know that Hayden Justice and Athena Hart had a close working relationship? No, I didn't. Oh, really? TJ said, somewhat frustrated. In the 3 summers they worked together, you never heard any rumors or seen anything that suggested they were close? No hints that this could have affected her choice to take the job? Emily smirked and said, in any big company, there are often rumors about relationships. I can tell you that there were no solid claims, reports, or evidence that Hayden Justice or Athena Hart acted inappropriately with each other or anyone else in the company. What about outside of work? TJ challenged. Did you think they might have had a close bond outside the office? Emily thought carefully before responding. I did think there was some connection between Hayden and Athena, but I didn't see it as anything more than 2 people who spent time together for several months and would miss each other when their work together ended. TJ nodded and looked back at Minerva before asking another question. Earlier you mentioned that executives choose their own interns for each division. Is that correct? Yes, with my final approval, Emily affirmed. What influence does Hayden Justice have over the decisions made here? Emily straightened her posture and replied, as president of Coastline Multimedia, Hayden Justice can have a big impact on nearly every employee in the organization. Facing the jury, he asked Emily, "Do you know if there were times when Mr. Justice influenced the choice of an intern?" "No, I don't know of any," Emily responded firmly. "As your direct boss," TJ challenged, "are you saying Hayden Justice could not influence your final decisions on which interns were selected?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Emily confirmed. "Not that he has ever tried." Miss Lima said that Hayden Justice noted her during the orientation for interns last summer. "Did he do that with one intern each summer?" Emily smiled and replied, "No." TJ paused briefly before changing the subject. "Mrs. Willis, can you explain to the court about the security cameras in all coastline multimedia buildings? What are they for?" "What do you want to know?" Emily answered. "Let's start with you explaining why the cameras were set up in the first place." "They were put in for the safety and security of the company and its employees." TJ nodded and asked, "What security concerns led to the installation of cameras throughout Coastline's facilities?" Emily shrugged. "There weren't any specific security concerns. Like most businesses, we had general worries about the misuse of resources. The video footage from these cameras is more valuable for assessing employee performance in different work areas so we can make improvements." "Are you saying," TJ responded, "that these security cameras are not monitored?" "Some are, and some aren't. The footage from all the cameras is stored on a server that only corporate security and certain staff members can access. If a manager or project team wants to look at videos from certain cameras, they must submit a formal request explaining why and what they need. Depending on the request, either a member of our security team or one of my staff will review the video first. If the content is acceptable and not intrusive to any employees, the requester will receive a link to view the video." "Who decides where these cameras are placed?" TJ asked. "It depends," Emily replied. "Our security team chooses the spots for the fixed cameras. These cameras watch over entrances, exits, shipping areas, hallways, and similar locations. These are the cameras that security watches closely. The cameras are set up by my department based on a regular plan to check each area now and then, as well as when a specific short-term need is asked for by a manager or project team." "Can you give us an example of a specific short-term need?" TJ asked. Emily smiled and replied, "Sure. A good example is what's happening in my department now. I asked for a camera to watch our multifunction copier. We are looking into whether it would be better for our department to keep one main device or add smaller ones in different spots to help reduce traffic and improve how much work our employees can get done." TJ nodded and asked, "Do you remember if there was a camera in the production print department at any time while Carlotta Lima was an intern?" Emily nodded and said, "When I learned about the situation with Mr. Justice, I had our security team and my staff check all of the video from the company to see if there were any moments where Mr. Justice and Miss Lima might have interacted." "You had all the videos from every camera checked?" TJ asked. "Yes, this is the same video data we gave to your law firm when asked for it," Emily confirmed. "And what did you find from reviewing all this video, Mrs. Willis?" "That there were no interactions between Mr. Justice and Miss Lima on any of the cameras during her internship." "Were you surprised by that?" "Not at all," Emily said. "And why not? Interns usually stay mostly in their assigned area where their mentor works. Since there was no active camera in the production print department during Miss Lima's internship, which is where she says she had all her interactions with Mr. Justice, it makes sense that there is no video of those events." "Would Mr. Justice, as the president of the company, know where all the cameras were set up at Coastline?" TJ asked. "Only if he asked for that information," Emily replied. "To your knowledge," TJ continued, "did Hayden Justice ask about where the security cameras were during Miss Lima's internship?" Looking at the defense table before answering, Emily said, "Towards the end of June last year, Mr. Justice asked about putting a camera in the warehouse for a few weeks to see how employees moved around a new order-picking system we were considering. He wanted to make sure employees had enough space and could move safely around the robotic devices. When he found out that all the security cameras were busy with other jobs, he asked for a list of those jobs to see if the order could be changed for a few weeks." TJ smiled at the jury before turning back to Emily. "To be clear, at the end of June last year, while Carlotta Lima was an intern at the company, Hayden Justice learned where every security camera was placed at Coastline Multimedia and how long it would stay in those spots. Is that right? Yes, TJ continued. So Hayden Justice knew that any time he spent with Carlotta Lima would not be recorded on video. Objection! Megan James shouted. That question asks for the witness's opinion. Judge Brunner quickly replied, Sustained. The jury will ignore that question. TJ took a breath and changed his question. Mrs. Willis, did the information about the camera locations give Mr. Justice a reason to believe that no cameras were watching the area where Carlotta Lima was working as an intern? Yes. Looking at Minerva, TJ noticed she was shaking her head. He then turned to the judge and said, I have no more questions for now. Miss James, the judge said, you may question the witness. Standing up, Megan replied, Your Honor, the defense has no questions for this witness now, but we may want to ask her again later. Judge Brunner nodded and said, It seems like a good time to break for lunch. Court will start again at 1 p.m. Please return on time. Minerva had been paying attention to TJ's questions for their witnesses while also observing the defense table. With Hayden sitting between Megan James and her co-lawyer, they faced the same challenges in communication that she and TJ did. As Hayden sat quietly between his two lawyers, they often exchanged a legal pad, clearly working together on what to say and how to respond. They seemed like a well-organized team. Hayden Justice, the third person at the defense table, had ignored everyone not sitting next to him throughout the trial. He focused on whoever was speaking, remaining engaged yet calm. Minerva thought he looked very composed and confident. Hayden Justice appeared to be a man without a worry in the world. When they reached their table, TJ looked around the courtroom and said, It seems Ashanti hasn't come back. Minerva turned to check the audience. This was the first time since the trial started that she looked around to see who else was there. The only person she recognized was Corinne Justice, who was happily chatting with Emily Willis. It looked like they were waiting for Hayden or someone else to join them for lunch. Come on, Minerva said. Let's get out of here and find something to eat quickly. We only have 45 minutes and a lot to talk about before we hand things over to the defense. TJ helped Minerva pack up their papers and things from the table. He asked, Are you going to call Dr. Henry? That's one of the things we can talk about at lunch, Minerva replied. Dr. Melvin Henry was a professor at Spelman College in Atlanta and was well known for his knowledge in diversity, inclusion, and equality. Minerva had asked Dr. Henry to be ready to give expert testimony on the emotional and psychological effects a person might face from uncomfortable experiences at work. Minerva was worried that the jury might not pay attention to the testimony if her team could not show that Hayden Justice had both the motive and the chance to cause harm. She and TJ had a lot to plan in a short time. As Minerva, Carlotta, and TJ walked into the courthouse hallway, a well-dressed woman walked up to Minerva. Excuse me, are you Minerva Hart? Yes, I am, Minerva said quickly, but I don't have time. The woman handed Minerva a manila envelope and said, You have been served. Chapter 14. When they noticed that the defense team had switched the two attorneys after returning from lunch, Minerva and TJ did the same. They had talked about this during lunch and agreed that Minerva could be more direct in questioning the defense's witnesses without seeming unfair to her sister. They felt ready, no matter the changes. Before taking her seat as the lead attorney at the plaintiff's table, Minerva looked over at the public seating area in the courtroom. She briefly made eye contact with Corinne Justice, who smiled and waved. Minerva did not return the gesture. She did not feel friendly toward the woman who had just given her a petition for a grandparent DNA test for the young child, Alexander Hart. Both Minerva and TJ did not believe it was a coincidence to receive this petition while they were involved in a case against Corinne's son. They thought it was a clear attempt to distract Minerva and take her focus away from the current case. However, now that she was back in court, Minerva was completely focused on the matter at hand. After everyone was seated, Judge Brunner noticed the new positions of the attorneys at both tables. He looked at his notes and asked Minerva, Miss Hart, are you ready to call your next witness? Minerva stood confidently and said, Your Honor, the plaintiff rests. Very well. Mr. Hughes, you may call your first witness. Thank you, Your Honor, Hughes replied as he took the stand. We would like to call Greg Carey to the stand. A tall, slim man walked to the witness stand and took an oath while Wally Hughes waited at the defense table. Once the witness was seated, Hughes approached him. Good afternoon, Mr. Carey, Hughes began. Can you please tell us what you do for a living? I am a barber, and I own Greg's Looking Good Barbershop in Surfside Beach, South Carolina. Thank you. Do you know the defendant, Mr. Hayden Justice? Carey smiled at the defense table and said, Yes, I have been cutting Hayden's hair for more than 5 years. Minerva stood up. Objection, Your Honor. I don't see how this relates to the case. Mr. Justice's hairstyle is not the issue here. The defense is wasting the court's time and trying to confuse the jury. Though she doubted the judge would agree with her objection, part of her plan was to disrupt the questioning of their witnesses, hoping to make them flustered. Wally Hughes seemed to understand her strategy, standing quietly while waiting for Judge Brunner to respond. Counselor, Judge Brunner said to Hughes, is there a reason for this line of questioning? There is, Your Honor. The plaintiff has claimed that my client made inappropriate remarks about her hair. This witness, as my client's barber, can share Mr. Justice's thoughts on different hairstyles. Addressing Minerva, Judge Brunner said, I will allow it. Minerva quietly returned to her seat and started taking notes. Hughes continued questioning. Does Mr. Justice's way of asking questions make your customers uncomfortable? Carey shook his head, smiling. Not at all. Most people appreciate his interest. He's genuinely curious and creates a relaxed environment. Customers tend to open up more because he makes them feel at ease. Hughes nodded and noted this, then asked, In your experience, does Mr. Justice's presence improve the overall atmosphere in your barbershop? Definitely, Carey confirmed. He brings a certain energy with him. His friendliness encourages others to interact, which makes the time spent in the shop more enjoyable for everyone. So, it seems that Mr. Justice is not just a customer, but a valued member of your barbershop community, Hughes summarized. Exactly, Carey replied. He fits in well and adds to the friendly atmosphere we have here. Hughes then changed the topic slightly, asking, Would you say Mr. Justice has a specific style in his own haircuts? Carey chuckled. Oh yes, he likes to keep it classic. He usually goes for a clean, neat cut. He prefers a simple style that is easy to manage. Is there a reason he chooses that style? Hughes asked. I think it matches his personality. Hayden likes things straightforward, and his haircut shows that, Carey explained. He also seems to value the classic hairstyles associated with tradition. Thank you, Mr. Carey, Hughes said, glancing at the jury before continuing his questions. Could Justice's direct questions or comments to your clients make them hesitate to return? Not at all, because nothing Hayden has said or asked has ever been seen as pushy, critical, or disrespectful by anyone. His conversations are always very courteous, and he offers acceptance and often compliments on how people choose to present themselves. He helps my customers feel good, and that is beneficial for my business. Hughes turned and walked back to the defense table. He was nearly seated when he added, I have no more questions, Your Honor. Before Judge Brunner could respond, Minerva quickly stood up and walked determinedly to the witness stand. Her tone was serious, making it clear she meant business. Mr. Carey, do you have a degree in sociology, psychiatry, psychology, or any other field that gives you the authority to speak about the thoughts or feelings of people in particular situations? Carey remained calm as he replied, No, I am just a licensed barber. However, like bartenders, a big part of our role is to read people and their emotions. After years of listening to various human experiences, I believe I understand people well. Minerva waved her hand dismissively and questioned, Mr. Carey, how many women do you serve in your barbershop each year? That would be 0, Carey admitted. Aside from the occasional mother bringing her young son in for a haircut, I do not have any female clients. Minerva nodded and asked, Do you not consider women to be people, Mr. Carey? Sitting up straighter and showing a serious expression, Greg Carey responded, Of course I do. Then explain how you can say you understand people when you only serve men. Are you suggesting that with no female customers for you to understand, you know their thoughts and feelings just as well as you do the men? Hughes stood up. Objection, Your Honor. Miss Hart is pushing the witness too hard. Overruled, Judge Brunner replied. Please go on, Miss Hart. Minerva changed the subject slightly and asked, Mr. Carey, do you have a wife or perhaps a daughter? I am married, but we do not have children, Carey answered. Thank you. Mr. Carey, do you think all the discussions in your barber shop are suitable for everyone? For example, would you want your wife to hear some of them? Carey shook his head and said, Even with the more innocent topics, the customers can get quite lively at times. But it is exactly because there are no women around that many of them feel free to speak and act in a certain way. Minerva nodded at his reply and continued, Would you say that some topics are not right for every setting? What is talked about in your barber shop might not be suitable for a workplace. Do you agree? Yes, Carey replied. But there are things talked about in a church that are also not suitable for a job. Minerva turned to the judge. Your Honor, I request that the witness's last comment be removed from the record. Judge Brunner instructed the clerk before addressing the witness. Mr. Carey, answer the questions without adding more. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Picking up where she had left off, Minerva rephrased her question. Do you think that topics from your barber shop would be suitable in a workplace? Carey thought for a moment and said, Not unless that workplace was another barber shop or a place with a similar crowd. So, Minerva asked, would it be fair to say that in a workplace like Coastline Multimedia, there could be someone who might not like a discussion about hairstyles? Just a simple yes or no will do. Yes, Carey answered, albeit hesitantly. I have no more questions for this witness, Your Honor, Minerva said as she returned to her seat. Hayden had no choice but to watch Minerva Hart question Greg Carey. Her spot in front of the witness stand put her in direct view, and looking away would have made his avoidance obvious to the jury. It was hard for Hayden not to picture a more grown-up version of Athena every time he saw Minerva, but seeing her in a formal business suit at least showed him something new compared to what he was used to seeing Athena wear. Minerva looked beautiful and professional in her courtroom attire, which was quite different from the casual dresses and slacks Athena often wore. The biggest difference Hayden noticed between the sisters was Minerva's confidence and self-assuredness, compared to Athena's more shy and reserved nature around others. When alone with Hayden, Athena was much more vibrant. She took charge and was the one who made most of the choices about how they spent their time together. Over the past 10 years, there were countless times when Hayden wished he had never met Athena Hart. Hayden struggled to understand how Athena could have been so loving in the past, yet had hurt him so deeply. She had broken his heart and made it hard for him to trust again. Now, when he thought of their time together, he only felt sadness for the memories that once seemed good. After dinner at Maggie D's, Hayden felt happy about his time with Minerva Hart. But as he watched her question Greg Carey, determined to win her case, he realized that Minerva might be just as clever as her sister. He had once been surprised by one Hart girl and was determined not to allow another to catch him off guard. He heard Megan's soft voice near his ear, asking if he was still all right to testify. He nodded as Wally Hughes called the next witness. Isaac King was a cheerful and well-liked supervisor at Coastline Multimedia. He had come to the United States from Jamaica as a teenager and brought a joyful spirit with him. Isaac was known for his hard work and for helping others. Hayden didn't know Isaac very well, but they had enjoyed friendly chats and jokes whenever they met. They often discussed Isaac's long hair, which he changed frequently. They would talk about how he styled it. Isaac shared during his testimony that he liked trying out different hairstyles and appreciated when others noticed. He found it odd that someone would style their hair and then be upset when someone commented on it. Minerva, meanwhile, asked Isaac questions to show that while he was comfortable with comments about his hair, not everyone, especially women, might feel the same way. To be continued.